Chapter 1358. Tianyan had to get the super gift bag. At the very least, he had to get the right to unlock crazy mode. These were all important things to improve his strength. How could he miss it? It was not that he was greedy, but he had to do it. If he did not improve his strength, it would be hard to protect the Three Realms God Realm. No treasure could compare to crazy mode. Just think about it, a 128 times stacking was already terrifying enough. When the time came, it would be 256 times. How could he not level up? He would risk his life to upgrade. After tasting the sweetness, he would not give up. Unless there was no hope at all, that would be a different story. Now that he had hope, he had to give it a try. You have to participate in the God Realm battle no matter what. Even if Master is willing to guide you up, you don't need this? Sword Lord Empyrean found it strange when he saw Tianyun's determination. Senior brother Sword, I have to participate in the God Realm battle. I want to bring all my loved ones up. I don't want to abandon them. Actually, the most important thing is to show my strength. If I can win the God Realm battle, I think Master will value me more. Tianyan smiled. That's right. Being able to move your own God Realm to a grade 4 God Realm is quite an amazing thing. Sword Lord Empyrean thought for a while and said, since Junior Brother has made up your mind, then I won't say anything more. I will fully support you in the God Realm battle. When the time comes, I will personally participate and bring my disciples to protect your God Realm. But I have to make one thing clear. Although I will help, I will not help you snatch the token core. Even if you killed Heavenly Venerable Godslayer and made a great contribution, if you want your God Realm to go up and show your strength, you have to snatch it yourself. This is necessary. Senior Brother Sword just needs to help protect my God Realm and not be disturbed by other forces. Tianyan is very satisfied with this point. If he can fight alone, then he will definitely be willing to fight alone. But now that he could not fight alone, he had to rely on external forces. And it's fine as long as you know. But don't worry, even if you fail, your senior brothers will protect your life. Failure isn't scary. The scariest thing is death. Sword C Heavenly Venerable said with a smile. No matter what, this is a great merit of yours. If Master knew about this, he would be overjoyed. Who knows, he might even personally come down to protect you. That's an exaggeration. Speaking of which, can anyone come down from here? Tianyan asked. There's no need for that. I just need to spend some effort. Some things are worth spending more effort on. Heavenly Lord Sword C smiled. No wonder those grade 3 God Realms are so arrogant when they get close to a grade 4 God Realm. Tianyan nodded his head in agreement. Who could stop a grade 4 God Realm from sending an upper-level Heavenly Venerable? Upper Heavenly Venerables were extremely rare in grade 3 God domains. Most of them were lower Heavenly Venerables, and at most they were middle Heavenly Venerables. Empyrean Death God was an exception. He had come down from the inner Divine Realm. That's true. Hence, the reason why the War of the Divine Realms is so dangerous is because the Divine Realms have sent reinforcements. Empyrean Death God was one of those reinforcements, but he's dead now. Sword C Heavenly Venerable said with a smile. The next step is to convince the two senior brothers. As long as they are convinced, I can't guarantee that you will be able to stabilize the War of the Divine Realms. At the very least, you will have a 50% chance of winning this round. Only a 50% chance. Tianyun's eyes narrowed. Yes, your current God Realm's overall strength is relatively weak. Even with our support, we can't take care of everything. The main thing is that you need to personally obtain the token core. Hence, you will have to rely on your own strength and your own strength. Once you obtain it, with the three of us guarding it, it won't be a problem to stabilize the situation for a month. Especially since you killed Empyrean Death God. After Master hears about it, he might even send an extremely strong force down. Sword C Heavenly Venerable smiled. At that time, are you still worried that you won't be able to hold on? That's right. Tianyun's eyes lit up with joy. It seemed that killing Empyrean Death God was really a big gain. There's no time to lose. Let's go find senior brother Longming now. Sword C Heavenly Venerable waved his hand, and a transmission array appeared. He brought Etianyan inside. In the next moment, they disappeared into the transmission array. In the blink of an eye, Etianyan felt as if he had appeared in another world. This world was filled with all kinds of monster beasts, wandering around everywhere. When they saw them appear, the monster beasts stopped and knelt down, respectfully saying, "Greetings, Ancestor Sword." "N, is your ancestor here?" Sword C Heavenly Venerable nodded. "Yes, he's cultivating on that sky pagoda." A giant bear pointed at the tall pagoda. "Good, let me introduce you. This is your little ancestor. He'll be joining us soon." Sword C Heavenly Venerable explained with a smile. "Greetings, little ancestor." They knelt down and kowtowed to Etianyan. They were very respectful, and they didn't doubt Etianyan at all. Etianyan sized up these monster beasts. There were all kinds of races, but what they had in common was that they were all monster beasts. For example, giant eagles, giant bears, giant deer, and the like were all here. There were high and low cultivations, with the highest reaching the Divine Lord level, and the lowest even Star Venerate. In this area, they were running all over the place, looking quite lively. This area was the same as Sword C Heavenly Venerables, a world created by himself. Here, Heavenly Venerable Long Ming was the king. "Alright, you guys go and play by yourselves. I'll go and meet your ancestor." Then he continued walking forward with Etianyan and explained, "This is the world created by Senior Brother Long Ming. It's pretty good, right?" "Senior Brother Long Ming seems to be a monster beast?" Etianyan asked. "I knew you would ask that. In fact, it's the opposite. Senior Brother Long Ming is from an inconspicuous race, the Divinewood race," Sword C Heavenly Venerable explained. Divinewood race? Etianyan was stunned. Although the Divinewood race had the word divine, their status was actually very low. In terms of the might of their bloodline, they were only slightly better than humans. The greatest advantage of the Divinewood race was that they were tough enough and had a more tenacious life force. Everything else was basically terrible. Unexpectedly, such a Divinewood race could become a Heavenly Venerable. In terms of cultivation, he should be stronger than Sword C Heavenly Venerable. That's right, it's the Divinewood race. You didn't expect it, right? Not only the Divinewood race, but he is also a beast tamer and can control many monster beasts. In addition, he likes the monster race, so he will place many of his favorite monster beasts in his world, Sword C Heavenly Venerable instructed. So remember not to be rude when you meet him later. Chapter 1359. I will. Etianyan nodded, feeling a little admiration for this senior brother. It was quite incredible to climb from a Divinewood race to such a position. Just like him, the human race was neglected everywhere, and other cultivators didn't think highly of him. His situation was quite tragic, but he still persisted. It was not simple. He also had the support of the crazy system, allowing him to counterattack fiercely. What power did this senior brother Long Ming rely on? But he will definitely get along well with you. The status of the human race is much worse than that of the Divinewood race. This way, you will appreciate each other and get along better, Heavenly Venerable Jianxi reminded. I don't think this is of much use, everything depends on strength, Etianyan said with a smile. This. Heavenly Venerable Jianxi scratched his head, looked at him, and said, "This is really crude words, but it really depends on strength." Immediately after, Heavenly Venerable Jianxi brought him directly to the top of the divine tower in front of him. The other monster beasts couldn't barge in, but Heavenly Venerable Jianxi and the others were different. When they arrived at the top, Heavenly Venerable Jianxi waved his hand, and the wall in front of them quickly opened to the side, revealing a hole. He flew in with Etianyan, and just as they landed, the door quickly closed. Junior Brother Jian, is this the little junior brother you mentioned before? This senior brother Long Ming in front of him was from the Divinewood race. It was very obvious that he had a thick layer of tree bark on his body, and the branches even extended out from the side. The key was that he had the appearance of a dragon. The Divinewood race naturally didn't look like this, but he had absorbed the bloodline of a giant dragon. After the blood entered his body, it transformed his body, which was why he had such an effect. Sure enough, I need a little fortuitous encounter, or it will be really hard to make a comeback. Tianyun looked at this senior brother Long Ming. He had a dragon head and a tree body, which looked a little strange, but he was quite domineering. Vaguely, he could feel the domineering dragon might spreading out in all directions. His cultivation had reached the level of late-stage middle-level Heavenly Venerable, which was indeed a level stronger than Heavenly Venerable Jianxi. Even if he absorbed the power of the giant dragon's bloodline, if he didn't cultivate properly in the later stages, it would be impossible to reach this level. Yes, this is the little junior apprentice brother I mentioned before. His talent isn't bad, and he was able to establish his own divine realm influence. This level of ability is at least a half-step Empyrean. Heavenly Venerable Sword C didn't tell the truth immediately. Instead, he smiled and said, I brought him here to meet senior brother Long Ming and get to know each other. Celestial Venerable Dragon Cry sized up Tianyun and nodded. A divine lord with the bloodline of the human race can rule the chaos celestial territory. He is indeed not simple. However, breaking through to the Empyrean realm is not easy. You have to work harder. In theory, you can't be said to be from the same sect as us. However, since junior brother Jian has said so, then let's meet in advance. This is my gift to you. Take it. With that said, Celestial Lord Long Ming plucked a branch from the ground and tossed it to Tianyun. It slowly floated into his hand. Tianyun took the branch and immediately felt a surging vitality coming from it. There was also the surging power of a Empyrean. With this thing, not only could he continue to comprehend the power of a Empyrean, but he could also heal his injuries. It was comparable to a very good healing elixir. Thank you, senior brother Long Ming. Tianyun felt that Celestial Venerable Dragon Cry's attitude was very good. He wasn't very forceful. Perhaps after seeing that he was from the human race, he would take care of him a little more. Senior brother Long Ming, little junior brother has a matter that he needs your help with. Heavenly Venerable Sword C smiled. Tianyun, who was beside him, felt that Heavenly Venerable Sword C was going to reveal his fox's tail. He was just fooling around. What is it? Heavenly Venerable Dragon Cry looked over and said, What matter is it that you can't help solve? You still want me to help solve it? Actually, it's very simple. Little junior brother wants to participate in the Divine Realm battle, and let the three of us help protect the Divine Realm. Heavenly Venerable Sword C explained. Impossible. Heavenly Venerable Dragon Cry was immediately a little displeased. He looked at Tianyun and said in a deep voice, Biting off more than you can chew won't do you any good. Moreover, this is impossible. We aren't even true disciples of the same sect, so I won't help. Heavenly Venerable Dragon Cry's words were very firm, and even a little unhappy. Clearly, this was crossing the line for him. I wonder what I can do to get senior brother Long Ming's help. Heavenly Venerable Sword C asked with a smile. It seems like he has already successfully bribed you? Heavenly Venerable Dragon Cry shook his head and said, I don't know what treasure he gave you, but I definitely won't help unless he becomes a true disciple of the same sect. You can help if you become a true disciple of the same sect? Heavenly Venerable Sword C repeated to confirm. Yes, no matter what, you have to become a disciple of the same sect. There's no need to talk about anything else. Heavenly Venerable Dragon Cry said without thinking. In his opinion, it would still take some time to break through to the Empyrean realm, so he naturally couldn't dig a hole for himself. Alright. Heavenly Venerable Sword C patted Tianyun's shoulder and said, Little junior brother, take that thing out and scare him to death. Okay. Tianyun knew it would be like this, so he immediately took out the 10,000 Divine Pagoda and placed it in front of him. 10,000 Divine Pagoda? Heavenly Venerable Dragon Cry stood up in shock, wondering if he had seen wrongly. After sizing it up, he realized that it was really the 10,000 Divine Pagoda. How did you get it? He was very calm before, as if nothing could cause any waves. Now he was so scared that he jumped up. Senior brother Long Ming, this is little junior brother's spoils of war. He killed Heavenly Venerable Killer God, and took down this 10,000 Divine Pagoda. The murderer that we are looking for outside is actually him. Heavenly Venerable Sword C smiled and said, If this matter is passed to Master, I think Master will be happy to accept him as a disciple immediately. That way, we will be in the same sect. Oh, right, let me add one more thing. I've already checked his strength. It's very strong. The main thing is that the boundless divine art was cultivated to the 5th level, completely activating the attack imprint in Heavenly Venerable Killer God's body, thus being able to take him down in one fell swoop. As for the degree of danger, I'm not too sure, but it's definitely very dangerous. Anyway, Senior Brother Longming, what you said just now still counts, right? Heavenly Venerable Swordsmanship chuckled. He actually schemed against his senior brother. First he set up a trap, then ruthlessly played a trick and he fell for it. Tianyan did not know whether to laugh or cry at the side. If he did this, what would Senior Brother Longming think? Junior Brother Sword, you're really as sinister as before. Heavenly Venerable Dragon Cry sat down, shook his head, and said with a smile, "All right, I'll agree. Just tell me about it, I'll agree to it. Originally, our mission was completed by Junior Brother, but now Junior Brother has completed it. Now if it's us helping him do something, what's so difficult about it?" Heavenly Venerable Swordsmanship patted his head and said helplessly, "That's really the case, what a waste of breath." Chapter 1360. After Heavenly Venerate Longming agreed, Tianyan was still a little excited. How could he not be excited about having another powerful Heavenly Venerate to assist him? "I promise to protect your God domain, so I won't help you snatch the token core." Heavenly Venerable Dragon Cry was the same as Heavenly Venerable Swordsmanship. He wouldn't choose to help snatch it. That's for sure. Everything depends on your own strength. You can't rely too much on external forces. Tianyan nodded, expressing his understanding. Actually, there's no need to worry. Even if the other divine domains have reinforcements, they won't be able to interfere at all when seizing the command token core. Therefore, everything was considered a fair competition, and everything depended on one's own ability. As for external forces, they are only used during defensive battles, said Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry. Tianyan was very clear about this. He could not interfere with foreign aid, mainly because there were people watching over them. This was a battle of the outer divine regions. Protecting the divine regions could rely on external forces. After all, the two had different meanings. Moreover, whether or not he could safely return to his own god territory after obtaining the token core was another matter. "I promised you, but Senior Brother Li Tian isn't that easy to deal with." Heavenly Venerate Longming smiled and added, "He won't give you any face even if you're from the same sect. As for you killing Empyrean Death God, that is indeed a great merit, but if you want him to assist you, it will be very difficult." "That's right. Senior Apprentice Brother Li Tian is the most difficult to deal with. He's even stronger than us. He's at the upper Empyrean level. He can basically do whatever he wants in the outer divine regions. At the same time, he's also the only one among us who can cultivate Empyrean martial arts." Empyrean Sword Judge said enviously. "Empyrean martial arts?" Tianyan's eyes narrowed. Even Heavenly Venerate Godslayer didn't have the opportunity to cultivate Heavenly Venerate martial arts. Who would have thought that this mysterious Senior Brother Li Tian would actually be able to cultivate Heavenly Venerate martial arts? An Empyrean martial art was extremely heaven-defying. Once one successfully cultivated it, they would be able to display the strongest power of an Empyrean. However, this didn't seem to be easy to cultivate. He had seen so many Empyreans, but no one had obtained an Empyrean martial art. Even the two senior brothers before him had yet to reach that level. That's right, the requirements to cultivate it are extremely harsh, but Senior Apprentice Brother Li Tian completed it just like that. We still have to work harder. Otherwise, we won't be able to cultivate at all. Heavenly Paragon Swordsmanship shook his head and said, "By the way, how many direct disciples does Master have?" Tianyan asked. "Including you, there are a total of 5 people. The other one is Senior Sister. She is staying in the God realm to help Master heal his injuries," said Swordsmanship Heavenly Venerable. "Only 4 people." Tianyan was taken aback. There were quite a lot of disciples in the heaven-pilfering divine ground, but he didn't expect that out of so many unnamed disciples, less than 4 would be selected. breaking through to the Empyrean realm is not a simple matter. Not only does it require a lot of time, but it also requires a lot of resources. If little junior brother hadn't killed Heavenly Venerable Killer God, I'm afraid it would have taken a long time. Heavenly Venerable Jianxi said solemnly. Especially during the tribulation, the power is great, and it is another threshold. Tianyan nodded. This was indeed a difficult task. Otherwise, there wouldn't only be 4 people. Many of them died along the way. Even an Empyrean could die in the struggle for resources. No matter what, senior brother Li Tian is hard to persuade. He is a stubborn person. He will only carry out master's orders. As for our requests, he won't care. Heavenly Venerable Jianxi smiled bitterly and said, so even if you make a great contribution, he might not be persuaded. So unreasonable. Tianyan frowned. It seemed that this was a difficult bone to chew. With one more Empyrean, the safety of the 3 realms God realm would increase. Actually, senior brother Li Tian is not bad. He is just a little stubborn. If there is any danger, he will be the first to step forward. Before Heavenly Venerable Killer God died, he has been searching for him ever since he came to the God realm. It can be said that he is crazy, said Swordsea Heavenly Venerable. But from what senior brother said, there is still a chance to persuade him? Tianyan asked. That's hard to say, but there is a chance. Then it's about time. I will bring you over now. If we are late, senior brother Li Tian will return to the God realm. When Swordsea Heavenly Venerable prepared to fly away with Tianyan, he turned to look at Empyrean Longming and said with a smile, Senior brother Longming, don't forget. I won't forget. When the time comes, I will personally take action. Empyrean Longming waved his hand and signaled him to scram. Many thanks, senior brother Longming. Before leaving, Tianyan thanked him once again for his help. Immediately, Swordsea Heavenly Venerable left this area with Tianyan and quickly returned to the world he was in. Senior brother Sword, why are you helping me? Do you have some special purpose? Tianyan felt a little strange. Even if he made a great contribution, there was no need to be so enthusiastic, right? There really is a special purpose. The battle of the God realm is so exciting, how can I miss it? Swordsea Heavenly Venerable rubbed his palms, his eyes revealing a strong fighting spirit. Tianyan was instantly speechless. So he was a battle maniac. Swordsea Heavenly Venerable didn't say much. He brought him to another transmission array and soon disappeared. In the next moment, they appeared in another area. This area was not special, it was the Fanyu. It's Fanyu again. Senior brother Li Tian is staying in Fanyu? Others couldn't help but want to stay in Fanyu. But the 2 of them were the opposite, staying in Fanyu. That's right, senior brother Li Tian is a super genius and has nothing to do with Fanyu. He was born in grade 3 God realm, and can be said to have grown up with a golden spoon in his mouth. Yet he likes to stay in Fanyu. We don't know why either. Swordsea Heavenly Venerable shook his head, feeling very puzzled. He likes to stay in Fanyu. Tianyan thought for a moment, and felt that senior brother Li Tian should have a story, and it happened in Fanyu. But I remember that you were born in Fanyu, right? He shouldn't be so cold, right? Swordsea Heavenly Venerable smiled and said, now that I think about it, not only do you have some connection with senior brother Longming, you also have some connection with senior brother Li Tian. This is indeed a little bit related to it. Tianyan said, hoping that his relationship with Yi Shiwen would be useful. Empyrean Swordsea brought him to go 1 round in the surroundings, a little like they were strolling around the vicinity. Senior brother Sword, can't you find senior brother Li Tian? Tianyan asked from the side. Senior brother Li Tian often strolls around without a fixed residence. I really don't know where he is. Swordsea Heavenly Venerable said helplessly. But he has always been in this area, we will be able to find him soon. Tianyan looked around and did not see anything special, it was not a place he was familiar with. Chapter 1361. Sword Judge brought Tianyan along, and after searching for a while, they finally found senior apprentice brother Li Tian on a nearby asteroid. Tianyan looked into the distance and saw a handsome young man sitting on the small planet. He was looking into the distance and seemed to be thinking about something. Heavenly Celestial Strength. Upper Heavenly Celestial Stage. Possesses immense power and a top-notch Strength God bloodline. His terrifying power can smash anything. The Strength God bloodline was a very shocking bloodline power. After it was activated, it could explode with strength that was several times stronger than usual, or even tens of times stronger. As the level increased, it would also increase. At the end of the day, Heavenly Venerate Strength was a super strong man. Just his fists alone were enough to shatter the void. Berserk Strength was much stronger than others of the same level. Just by relying on strength, one could conquer everything. So it's the mighty god's bloodline. His overall level is indeed astonishing. If it's a battle, he will truly be invincible. Etiennen's eyes lit up. In terms of strength, the Herculean god bloodline might not be number 1, but it would at least be in the top 3. If combined with an Empyrean martial art, it would truly be heaven-defying. It was no wonder that with the help of the 3 of them, they would be able to hold the fort. Just this strength alone was enough for a heavenly paragon. If he thought about it carefully, if he didn't even have this little bit of strength, how could he deal with Empyrean Death God? Empyrean Death God was an upper Empyrean powerhouse. Even if he was injured, he still had the standard of a middle Empyrean. Thus, an extremely powerful force was needed to suppress Empyrean Godslayer. The 3 of them were extremely powerful disciples, so suppressing Empyrean Death God wouldn't be a problem at all. However, this mission was snatched away by Etienne. Senior Brotherly Tian, I finally found you. Sword C. Heavenly Paragon brought Etienne and flew over. Heavenly Venerate Heavenly Force slowly opened his eyes. His gaze lingered on Heavenly Venerate Sword C for a moment before stopping on Etienne. I believe this must be the person you mentioned earlier who has a chance to become our junior brother, right? It seemed like they already knew about Etienne. For Heavenly Venerable Sword C to be able to bring others over, he definitely had some status. Greetings, Senior Brotherly Tian. Etienne walked over and said respectfully, "Don't call me Senior Apprentice Brotherly Tian. You haven't become my Junior Apprentice Brother yet, so you don't have the right to call me Senior Apprentice Brother." Heavenly Paragon Li Tian's words were extremely ruthless, further proving his inflexibility. As long as it wasn't a foregone conclusion, don't tell him anything else. What Senior Brother or Junior Brother? We'll talk about it after everything is confirmed. It was not his style to come to a conclusion without even confirming it. Cough cough, Senior Apprentice Brotherly Tian, you really are inflexible. But he will definitely become our little junior brother. Let me show you something. Sword Judge Heavenly Lord patted Etienne's shoulder and signaled him to take out the Myriad God Pagoda. Heavenly Paragon Sword C didn't dare to dig a hole in front of Heavenly Paragon Li Tian. Some people couldn't be provoked casually, or it would have the opposite effect. Etienne quickly took out the 10,000 Gods Pagoda and passed it forward. 10,000 Gods Pagoda? Heavenly Paragon Li Tian, who looked as calm as water, was shocked. He quickly flew over and stared at the 10,000 Gods Pagoda. That's right. This is the 10,000 Gods Pagoda, Heavenly Paragon Godkiller's powerful treasure. Now that Heavenly Paragon Godkiller was killed by little junior brother, it's a great merit. Even if my cultivation hasn't reached the level of a Heavenly Paragon, it shouldn't be a problem for me to become a fellow disciple, right? Sword Judge Heavenly Paragon was very satisfied when he saw Heavenly Paragon Li Tian's shocked expression. This was the effect he wanted. Even the usually calm Heavenly Paragon Li Tian would give him a good scare. Then, Heavenly Paragon Li Tian glared at Etienne and said, "Tell me, how did you do it?" "I cultivated the boundless divine art to the 5th level, then activated Master's attack mark and killed him," Etienne explained. "I see. The 5th level of the boundless divine art. You are qualified to become my junior brother. From now on we will be fellow disciples." Heavenly Paragon Li Tian quickly regained his composure, and was no longer as shocked as before. Clearly, he had accepted this reality and acknowledged Etienne's ability. Everything seemed so calm, just like how it was at the beginning. "This is a greeting gift from me. I hope you don't mind." Heavenly Paragon Li Tian took out a bottle and handed it over. Many thanks, Senior Brother Li Tian. Yi Tianyan didn't even look at it before accepting it. Something given by a heavenly paragon would definitely not be bad. After saying that, Heavenly Paragon Li Tian turned to leave. He didn't want to spend too much time with them. Senior Brother Li Tian. Sword Judge Heavenly Paragon hurriedly shouted. HM? Is there anything else? Heavenly Paragon Li Tian asked curiously. If there's nothing else, it's about time we return to the God domain. Of course there's something else. Little Junior Brother has a presumptuous request and hopes that Senior Brother Li Tian can agree to it. Sword Judge Heavenly Paragon said. Yes, I have a presumptuous request and I hope that Senior Brother Li Tian can agree to it. Yi Tianyan said. Then let's hear it. Heavenly Paragon Li Tian didn't turn to leave. Instead, he listened earnestly. I want to participate in the God Domain War, and I hope that Senior Brother Li Tian can be the protector of my faction. I don't need you to help me snatch the token core. I just hope that you can help me protect my faction. Yi Tianyan said sincerely. No. Heavenly Paragon Li Tian didn't even think about it, and immediately refused. Why? Yi Tianyan asked curiously. There's no why. I don't want to get involved in such matters. Heavenly Paragon Li Tian shook his head. Senior Brother Li Tian, don't be so unreasonable. Little Junior Brother killed Heavenly Paragon God Killer. If it weren't for him, who knows how long it would have taken us to find him? Who knows, Heavenly Paragon God Killer's injuries might have healed by then. It would be even more difficult to deal with him then. Heavenly Paragon Sword Ruler tried to persuade Heavenly Paragon Li Tian. Regardless of whether or not he wanted to join in on the fun, just this sentiment alone was enough to make Yi Tianyan feel grateful. Even so, I don't want to get involved. The God Domain War. Heavenly Paragon Li Tian sighed deeply, a trace of sorrow in his voice. It was clear that some of his memories had been drawn out. Let's just forget about this matter. Perhaps we can still discuss other matters, but don't look for me for this matter. He waved his hand, indicating that Yi Tianyan didn't need to say anything else. Just like that, the matter was settled. Heavenly Paragon Sword Ruler felt helpless. Since Heavenly Paragon Li Tian had said so, there was no way he could force his way through. With their current situation and status, they would only be amenable to coaxing but not coercion. Of course, Heavenly Paragon Li Tian could be said to be unmoved by persuasion or coercion. He was even more stubborn. Senior Brother Li Tian, you've been staying here all this time, so you must have some memories that you haven't forgotten, right? I wonder what it is. If you tell me, I might be able to help you. I was born in Fanyu, so I might be able to help you, Yi Tianyan said. Chapter 1362. Since Heavenly Venerate Li Tian stopped, it meant that Yi Tianyan was right. Yi Tianyan guessed this because he felt that it was strange for Heavenly Venerate Li Tian to stay in Fanyu. Heavenly Venerate Li Tian was born in a Grade 3 God realm, and had nothing to do with Fanyu. The two were separated by a great distance. Now that he liked to stay here, it meant that there was something related to him here. For example, his friend who was born in Fanyu had died, so he came here to reminisce. Heavenly Venerate Li Tian had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, and as an Empyrean, he had experienced many things. Thus, it wasn't strange for something like this to happen. Yi Tianyan took this opportunity to ask. Perhaps he could really help. Heavenly Venerate Li Tian wasn't willing to help, but that didn't mean he didn't have a chance. As long as he could find a way out, there wouldn't be a problem. You were born in Fanyu? Heavenly Venerate Li Tian didn't know as much as Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler in this aspect, so he wasn't too sure. Yes, I'm the real deal. Yi Tianyan patted his chest and smiled. If it's to find someone or a place, there definitely won't be a problem. He wasn't lying. With the evil spirit wheel, it was easy to find someone without any pressure. As long as he had some information, he would be able to find that person immediately. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler's eyes lit up. It seemed like he really could find a way out. However, he was worried about Heavenly Venerate Li Tian. He didn't know that Heavenly Venerate Li Tian had such memories. Heavenly Venerate Li Tian thought for a moment before nodding. Actually, I'm looking for someone. You can say that I'm looking for my descendant. A long time ago, one of my Dao companions came from the mortal realm. During the God Realm War, I told her to stay far away, but after the God Realm War ended, I discovered that she had already left me. This was all because of the shockwaves of the God Realm War. He clenched his fists, his eyes turning slightly red. Most cultivators didn't care about emotions. It was clear that this woman held a significant position in his heart. Only now did they know why Emperor Li didn't want to participate in the Divine Realm War. In the past, it was because of the Divine Realm War that his own Dao companion had died. Now, if he were to participate in the Divine Realm War, wasn't that the same as sprinkling salt on his wounds? Senior brother Li Tian, I'm really sorry. I was rude. Yi Tianyan shook his head. He hadn't thought that it would be such a sad past. Don't worry, it's all over. This is fate. Heavenly Venerate Force sighed. The war in the Divine Realm is cruel. There are bound to be countless casualties and many innocent people will be implicated. However, this is something that cannot be avoided, unless there is an extremely powerful existence controlling these matters. At the very least, I can't. This was something that would happen every once in a while. There was no way to change it. Unless one was really so heaven-defying that they could control the exclusive property of the heavens, then they would be able to change it. But how strong would one's cultivation be? Although my Dao companion left me, I heard that she already had my child. At that time, I was wild with joy and kept searching for her. However, I could not find her. I heard that she died, but she might have left behind more descendants. I want to find a descendant with a similar bloodline. However, Fanyu is so vast, it is hard to find one. Heavenly Venerate Force shook his head and said, it is also possible that she is not in Fanyu. She might be in the deity domain, but I cannot find her. I wonder if you have any way to find someone similar? That is, someone with the Strength God's bloodline might be my descendant. Strength God's bloodline? A bright light flashed in Yi Tianyan's eyes. A person immediately appeared in his mind, Xiao Wu. Long ago, Xiao Wu recruited a wooden-looking expert. That person looked very wooden-looking, but he was terrifyingly strong. Actually, this was the Strength God's bloodline. Now this person was a capable general in the deity domain of the three realms. However, this person's bloodline was extremely thin, and could not bring out all his potential. However, under Yi Tianyan's care, his cultivation still reached the Star Venerate level, which was pretty good. In the deity domain of the three realms, this person could be considered a powerful general. However, his personality did not change. He was still that simple and honest person. That's right. It is the Strength God's bloodline. Let's start with searching for the Strength God's bloodline first. Then we will investigate the bloodline. Heavenly Venerate Force asked. Do you have any information on this? To be honest, Senior Brother Force, my faction happens to have such a bloodline. Shall I bring you over to take a look now? Yi Tianyan smiled faintly. Such a coincidence. Heavenly Venerate Force's eyes lit up in pleasant surprise. Such a coincidence. In that case, there is no time to lose. Let's make a trip there? Yi Tianyan smiled. Even if Xiao Wu was not a descendant of Heavenly Venerate Force, at least he had the Strength God's bloodline, which was worth nurturing. At that time, Heavenly Venerate Force might very well help. Okay, let's go now. Heavenly Venerate Force was also a little excited. He did not expect to have such news. Heavenly Venerate Sword Judge scratched his head and sighed. What a coincidence. If he really can take them all, my junior brother is really scary. Under the personal guidance of Heavenly Venerate Force, their speed was extremely amazing. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the deity domain of the three realms. There, he is training his disciples now. Yi Tianyan pointed to Xiao Wu, who was training his disciples below. Each and every one of them was carrying a huge rock and cultivating. Xiao Wu was also not idle. He shared the joys and sorrows, carrying the huge rock that was several times larger than them, and began to run. Hurry up. If you want to become stronger, you have to work hard. I used to be like you. I had no status, no power, and I had to rely on my own hands. The key is to follow the right person. If Heavenly Cloud's great emperor didn't take me with him, I would still be farming in my hometown. Ha ha ha. One by one, they laughed loudly, and they couldn't help but laugh when they heard the word I. They had to admit that Xiao Wu was very approachable, very friendly, and didn't put on any airs. In fact, he didn't need to run with them, but in order to give them a little confidence and motivation, he ran with them. Little did they know that there were two heavenly venerates watching them from above. Among them, Heavenly Venerate Force looked up and down at Xiao Wu, and after a careful look, his eyes lit up. It really is the Strength God's bloodline. I didn't expect you to have the Strength God's bloodline here. It's just a coincidence. I think he has infinite strength, so I promoted him to be my general. He is simple and honest, and he works extremely hard in cultivation. His talent is ordinary, but if senior brother Li Tian really activates the power of his bloodline, I think he will become amazing. Chapter 1363. Li Heavenly Venerate didn't say much and immediately flew down. All of a sudden, the three of them landed in front of Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu, who was the first to run, immediately stopped, mainly because he saw Yi Tianyan. He didn't know the other two people. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. When Xiao Wu saw Yi Tianyan, he was overjoyed and hurriedly threw the boulder in his hand to the side. Boom! The boulder smashed into the ground and created a deep pit. Many disciples behind him dropped the boulder and respectfully shouted, "Heavenly Cloud's great emperor!" There was no doubt about Yi Tianyun's prestige here. Basically, everyone knew who Heavenly Cloud's great emperor was. In every city, there was a statue of Yi Tianyan. This was not ordered by Yi Tianyan but by Shi Shuiyun. She said it was to give them absolute faith. If they didn't even know who their great emperor was, then there was no way they could rule. Therefore, it was necessary to make a statue so that other people didn't know. Unless it was some new people, otherwise, everyone who was just born would know. There was such a statue in every city, so how could they not know? After Yi Tianyan learned about it, he felt very helpless. But since Shi Shuiyun did it, he just let her do it. Heavenly Venerate, mighty Heavenly Venerate suddenly grabbed Xiao Wu and sent a stream of energy into his body. The energy flowed through Xiao Wu's body and examined every single detail. Xiao Wu was scared, but no matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free from Li Heavenly Venerate's hand. Xiao Wu, don't be nervous, his bloodline is the same as yours. He can stimulate the power of the bloodline in your body, make you stronger. Yi Tianyan explained to him, indicating that he should not be so nervous. Xiao Wu had absolute trust in Yi Tianyan, so he immediately stopped being nervous and let Li Heavenly Venerate investigate his body. Of course, he could only let Li Heavenly Venerate investigate his body. Soon, Heavenly Venerate Force circled around once and his eyes flashed with a sharp light. He stared straight into Xiao Wu's eyes with a soul-stirring gaze. At this moment, Xiao Wu felt that he was being stared at, and his hair stood on end. He didn't know who this guy was, but he didn't look simple, and he was very strong. The mighty Sky Heavenly Lord looked very strong indeed. His body was tall and sturdy, and he was more than 3 meters tall, just like a small giant. Although they were still lacking compared to the other tall races, they were much stronger in terms of cohesiveness. This was his feeling. Whether it was accurate or not was another matter. Good, very good. Ha 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 ha. Strength Heavenly Venerate, who had remained calm all this while, burst into laughter. His laughter spread throughout the entire 3 realms. The group of people all raised their heads to look at the sky. They did not know where this laughter came from, but it actually penetrated so deeply into their hearts. This was the laughter of an upper Empyrean, so its might was naturally extraordinary. Just the laughter alone was enough to scare away a group of people. Congratulations, senior brother Li Tian. You've found your descendant. Yi Tianyan congratulated him from the side. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler finally reacted and gave Yi Tianyan a thumbs up. He didn't think that Yi Tianyan would be smarter than him. I also congratulate senior brother Li Tian. It's truly a coincidence that you've found your descendant. I didn't think that the descendant of this generation would be in junior brother's faction, and he would even be a capable subordinate. What a coincidence. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler shook his head. There really was no story without coincidences. Everything was too coincidental. There's nothing more to say. I'll take care of the Divine Realm battle. However, in return, I'll be the one to train him. Of course, I won't take him away. I'll leave him here and won't restrict his freedom. Heavenly Venerate Force immediately decided to help protect Tianyan. Just finding his descendant was enough for him to owe Tianyan a favor. If he didn't help Tianyan, that would really be inexcusable. Moreover, Little Wu would definitely participate in the Divine Realm battle. He couldn't just watch his descendant participate in the Divine Realm battle, and he might even die. Okay, then I'll leave him to senior brotherly Tian. Tianyan's eyes lit up. Being personally taught by a Heavenly Venerate and awakening the power of his bloodline, Little Wu's future would definitely be bright. At that time, the Divine Realm of the Three Realms would have one more super general. Little Wu, you should listen to senior brotherly Tian's teachings. He is a super expert, and he is also your ancestor. Tianyan said seriously. I hope you will cultivate well. The Divine Realm's defense depends on you. Yes, Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Little Wu said firmly. He was absolutely obedient. Immediately, Heavenly Venerate Force left with Little Wu. He didn't ask where they were going. Anyway, he was going to awaken his bloodline or teach Little Wu various kinds of power. When Little Wu came back, he would definitely be stronger. Little junior brother, now it's my turn to congratulate you. With the three of us protecting you, there won't be any big problems in the Divine Realm. Unless the other side sends a more powerful expert, such as several upper Heavenly Venerates, you will definitely be able to defend the Divine Realm. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler was very confident in their strength. Then I'll leave it to Senior Brother Sword. Tianyan nodded. Okay, that's all for now. If there's anything else, you can come to me. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler stretched out his hand and pinched his fingers, then frowned and said, but the Divine Realm battle should start soon, at most in less than 100 years. So soon? I heard that it will take a long time, at least 1,000 years to start. Tianyan said in surprise. According to previous inferences, it should take a few thousand years, but this time it's a lot earlier. I think it has something to do with the changes in the Divine Realm. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler patted Tianyan's shoulder and said with a smile. If you really want to go to the Divine Realm, you will need more power to protect your own forces. The cruelty there is 100 times crueler than here. However, I think Master won't just watch as something happens to you. When the time comes, he will definitely come to help. You can rest assured about this. This is also the reason why I'm willing to participate in the Divine Realm battle. If your forces are too weak, it will be hard for you to even protect yourself. In addition, without any external help, even if you go, it will only be a dead end. But now your situation is different. With the three of us and Master's help, you can basically stabilize the situation. It's just that during this period of time, whether it's yourself or your forces, you have to increase the overall strength as much as possible. Of course, I know that it's very difficult to increase a lot. After all, it's not that simple to increase a force. It requires too many resources. After he warned Tianyan, he turned and tore open the void to leave, leaving behind a pondering Tianyan. In less than 100 years, it's going to start. Chapter 1364. It's been a long time since I last refined pills. Let's start now. Tianyan had nothing else to do for the time being. He just wanted to improve his overall strength. Pills and weapons were very important things. Especially pills. They were highly consumable items. The consumption was extremely shocking. Therefore, he needed more pills. After plundering the evil spirit god domain, he obtained a lot of spirit herbs. He could refine many batches of pills. Then he returned to his hall, took out a high-grade alchemy furnace, and started refining pills one by one. He refined thousands or even tens of thousands of pills at once. A thick aroma wafted out from the main hall. The fragrance enveloped the entire three realms. Just smelling this fragrance was enough to cause their cultivation speed to increase by quite a bit. The rest of the elders rushed over. They didn't know what was going on. When they entered the hall, they saw Tianyan sitting on the ground in the middle. There was a huge alchemy furnace in the air. Every time it erupted, thousands of pills would shoot out and fall into the jade bottles on the ground. Shuiyun and the others came over and picked up the jade bottles. After checking, they found that they were all very good grade 3 God domain pills. Whether it was a Star Lord, an Earth Lord, or even the Lord of Heaven, it would have a good effect. Now good pills were being produced in large quantities. This refining speed made them dumbfounded, especially Elder GU and the others. Heavens, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Even grade 3 God domain pills can't be refined so quickly, right? They were all experienced and knowledgeable, but they had never seen such a terrifying refining speed. The number of pills refined in one go was too many. They were all dumbfounded. Tianyan was in crazy alchemy mode, which increased the refining speed by 128 times. His refining speed was simply explosive. The pills that he refined were naturally much faster and more numerous. Those alchemists in front of him could not be mentioned in the same breath at all. These pills are refined. Take them out when you come in and distribute them. Those who have reached the Sage King stage and above can receive them. This will be a universal celebration to celebrate the establishment of the divine realm of the three realms. Tianyan wanted to find an excuse. He couldn't possibly say that he was preparing for the divine realm war, but rather that it was a gift. The rest of the pills would be placed in the contribution temple, so that they could exchange for them with contribution points. It was impossible for him to keep giving out elixirs for free. That would be reaping without sowing. No matter what, he needed to complete some missions. Otherwise, he would just sit and eat. He just wanted to make them happy and reward them well. All right, they took them one by one and began to arrange these matters. In addition to those above the Saint King stage, for those below the Saint King stage, Tianyan would also refine a large number of pills, but this number was already terrifying enough. The number of cultivators below this level was extremely terrifying. There were at least hundreds of millions of pills. Of course, refining low-grade pills required less time, and were easier to successfully refine. Thus, there was no need to worry about spending too much time and energy. All of them were extremely excited. Only Tianyan could make such a big move. Next, this batch of pills was quickly distributed, immediately causing a shock in the divine realm of the three realms. A domain lord level existence was personally refining pills for everyone. This made the others feel extremely touched, especially when everyone could have one. Perhaps it was not a lot, only one. However, they knew how difficult it was. Even newborn babies were able to get one. Wasn't this shocking? This meant that how much energy was needed to achieve this step. But Tianyan did it, and continued to do it, making them even more willing to work for Tianyan. Those forces that had originally joined Tianyan had their loyalty greatly increased. They were deeply moved. They felt that it was really good to join this force. Unlike those forces, who were extremely ruthless. Here, as long as one worked hard enough, they could get everything. Time passed quickly. Tianyan has been refining pills, and he spent most of his time refining low-grade pills. Under the crazy refining, most people could get it, but there were still a few who didn't. Finally, after refining for half a year, everyone got a pill. He also specially refined a batch of pills and hung it in the contribution temple for others to exchange. Finally finished refining, the proficiency increased a lot. I almost leveled up. Tianyan looked at his God Pill Master level. Before he was at level 3, but now he almost reached level 4. If he could refine level 3 pills, he would have leveled up a long time ago. But even if he wanted to refine, he didn't have enough resources to do so. The resources needed to refine level 3 God Domain pill is not bad. Fanyu level pill is much easier to refine. Ding! Completed Special Quest World Celebration People's Unity. Gained all loyalty increased by 50, 1000 compressed crazy point, 1000 compressed proficiency. At the same time, gained the title, People's Unity. People's Unity. When facing enemies in the three realms God domain, your own strength is increased by 5 times, your own healing ability is increased by 5 times, and the effect of cultivation consolidation is increased by 10 times. Is there such a good thing? Tianyan's eyes widened. He wanted to improve his overall strength, and at the same time stabilize his position. Who knew that he would get such a special title by accident? Such a title will really have a great effect when facing enemies in the future. And this was an effect that affected everyone, not just him. Tianyan, it's hard on you to refine so many pills. Shi Shuiyin came over with a cup of tea. Her beautiful eyes were full of worry. It's not hard, it's okay. I'll just treat it as cultivation. Tianyan smiled. Refining so many pills really gave him a lot of experience. No matter what, don't work too hard. Shi Shuiyin sat next to him and smiled. The response outside is very good. Everyone is very enthusiastic, and the task is a lot faster than usual. Well, this is a good sign. But I have to release more special tasks. For example, if you work hard in cultivation, you will get a lot of pills for every breakthrough. Tianyan said solemnly. This task is not very good, right? If you cultivate too fast, it's easy to have cultivation deviation. Shi Shuiyin frowned. Don't worry about this. The environment here has been modified by me, unless there is a mistake in cultivation. Otherwise this will not happen. Chapter 1365. Naturally, Shi Shuiyin would not interfere with Tianyan's decision. Since he had already said so, she would not say anything else. She believes that Tianyan's decision will not be wrong. It has never been wrong before. Tianyan, why are you in such a hurry to issue such a mission? Something big must have happened. Shi Shuiyin could feel that something was wrong. Raising his cultivation so quickly meant that he was either protecting the God realm or fighting everywhere. Tianyan had said that he would not fight everywhere. That meant that he was protecting his own God realm. Looks like you've seen through me. But once this mission is issued, you'll see through it soon. Tianyan did not hide anything. He said with a smile, it's the God realm war. It's an extremely dangerous war. If we succeed, we'll become a grade 4 God realm. If we fail, we'll be exterminated. However, I'm confident that I can win this round. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let so many lives in the God realm be implicated by my selfishness. Moreover, the God realm war could also affect this place. Even if I don't participate, I'll still be affected. Strength is always the most important. Therefore, raising one's strength is equivalent to increasing one's chances of survival. Even if Tianyan did not participate in the God realm war, it could still affect this place. The main thing was to see where the core of the token appeared. If it appeared in a grade 1 God realm, this place would definitely be affected. Even a grade 2 God realm would be affected. Unless it appeared in a grade 3 God realm, the effects would be reduced. Whether it was Fan Yu or a grade 2 God realm, they were too close. It was easy to be affected. The start of the war required resources. Where would the resources come from? Definitely from ready-made resources. The surrounding God realms could be robbed or turned into battlefields. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so cautious. The Heavenly Spring Domain's Glazed Domain Lord was even more cautious. She had already made arrangements. Those who were unprepared would die. The God Realm War. Soon, Shi Shuiyin understood and was deeply shocked. She did not expect such a big event. When are you going to announce this to the public? Shi Shuiyin's expression was solemn. This was a very important matter, and they couldn't afford to be careless. It was even more impossible to not announce it to the public. After all, everything had to be prepared. Giving them enough time to prepare, and more importantly, letting them know what kind of monster they were facing. Let's talk about it in a few decades. Let's not talk about it now. Tianyan thought for a moment before saying. But we can first make it clear to the other elders and discuss the plan internally. The plan is fine, but what about yours? Shi Shuiyin's beautiful eyes were filled with worry. After understanding the situation, Shi Shuiyin realized that their forces were just like throwing an egg against a rock. They could not withstand this battle at all. His overall strength was too weak. Even if he tried his best to raise it, he probably wouldn't be able to raise it by much. However, when Tianyan said that with the help of 3 celestial venerables, they could basically stabilize the situation, she reluctantly heaved a sigh of relief. However, she was still worried about Tianyan's safety. Tianyan truthfully told her all the dangerous things that had happened. Especially when they were fighting for the core of the token, that was the most dangerous moment. Facing the encirclement of so many strong enemies was the most fatal. Don't worry. The thing I'm least afraid of is being surrounded by enemies. Yi Tianyan hugged her, his eyes full of confidence. I never do things that I am not confident about. You can rest assured about this. Okay. Shi Shuiyan nodded gently, but she was still very worried. While Shi Shuiyan was busy with her own matters, Yi Tianyan stayed in his room with nothing to do. At this time, he thought about the special mission of the worry-forgetting bridge. He had not been able to enter it then. Could he enter it now? Now that my cultivation has improved a lot, I should be able to get through it, right? Yi Tianyan had previously felt that he needed the power of a celestial venerate to get through. Although he had not become a celestial venerate yet, his overall strength was enough to crush an ordinary celestial venerate. Immediately, he did not think too much about it. He immediately teleported above the core. Just like before, his soul was stripped from his body and reappeared in the small village. There were still people coming and going, and it was very lively. He still stayed in the small grass hut, which looked very simple and crude. Soon he arrived in front of the worry-forgetting bridge. Now many souls had entered the worry-forgetting bridge, and gradually disappeared into the distance, never to look back. This time, I must pass through here. I feel that if I can get to the other side through here, I can definitely win the battle of the divine realm. Yi Tianyan had a feeling that if he could get to the other side, he would be able to control the power of the three realms. The three realms did not seem very big, but the power within it was extremely terrifying. Once it erupted, even an upper celestial venerate would be instantly killed. A 9th grade divine inscription master was not a joking matter. How much power did one need to be able to reach 9th grade? He arrived in front of the worry-forgetting bridge, and lifted his foot to step onto it. As he did so, he immediately felt his consciousness blur. This time was much better than before. At least he did not feel as if he was being sucked in immediately. There's a chance. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He immediately lifted his foot, and continued to walk forward. As he walked forward step by step, his consciousness began to rapidly be sucked out. Originally, his soul had already entered, but now it felt more like his soul had left his body. It was like his soul was being stripped away on a deeper level. He clenched his teeth and continued to walk forward step by step. His consciousness was rapidly being sucked out. Stabilize for me, Yi Tianyan groaned. He wanted his lost consciousness to continue to be fixed in his soul. Only then could he continue to walk forward. With every step, he needed to rest for a while to stabilize his consciousness. Only then could he continue to walk forward. At this time he had only walked half the distance. There was still half the distance to go. He turned his head and looked to the side. There were souls following him, but they were walking leisurely. After crossing the bridge, they finally walked into the grass hut in front of them. It seemed that their goal was also the grass hut in front of them, not to disappear on the worry-forgetting bridge. The truth. Yi Tianyan clenched his teeth and continued to walk forward. He guarded his soul bit by bit, not letting his consciousness leave. During this time, he felt the strength of his soul begin to rise at a crazy rate. Cultivation could be increased at will, but the strength of one's soul was not something that could be upgraded just by smashing experience points. It could only be improved by relying on one's own cultivation. But now it was growing at a rapid pace. This made him feel somewhat happy. Chapter 1366. Yi Tianyan walked forward step by step. He walked very slowly. Sometimes it took him a few days to walk a single step. He just barely managed to walk one step. Fortunately, he had plenty of time and basically did not need to do anything outside. Before coming down, he had already informed Shi Shuiyan that he was going into seclusion, and would not be here for the time being. If there was an emergency, she would contact him immediately. But from the looks of it, there would not be anything urgent for the time being. Although Heavenly Venerable Swordsmanship was not here, he would immediately notice anything that happened here. The most important thing was that if little Wu stayed here, who would dare to touch this place? Heavenly Venerable Li Tian could flatten them in minutes. As time passed, his soul rapidly strengthened. Every time he strengthened a little, he felt that he had stabilized and that he still had some energy left. Only then would he take another step forward. Ding, soul strength successfully upgraded to God Lord level 9. A pleasant voice sounded from the side. The strength of his soul cultivation was 4 levels higher than his own cultivation. He could not use experience to increase it, but it did not mean that the system would not prompt him to level up. It was just that he did not pay much attention to it. The strength of the soul had always been the most important level for cultivation. However, there were limited ways to level up, so Etianyan did not pay much attention to it. There were many ways to cultivate, such as through life and death tempering, which could improve a lot. Alchemy and blacksmithing could also speed up the improvement. Among them, engraving a god seal was the best. Even so, the improvement was extremely limited and rather slow. From the fact that Etianyan had refined so many things and was only a few levels higher than him, it was obvious that the difficulty of improving was too great. Some soul strength could not keep up with their cultivation, which could easily lead to chi deviation. Therefore, they would cultivate alchemy, blacksmithing, or cultivate martial arts in this area. For example, cultivating illusions could improve one's cultivation. The strength of the soul was closely related to all of one's abilities. It could resist heart demons and increase the range of spiritual consciousness. These were the most common. Alchemy was even more important. It could stabilize one's mind so that there would not be too many mistakes when refining pills. Now that Etianyan's soul strength had been greatly improved here, it was as if he had obtained a good opportunity. After all, it was usually very difficult to have such an improvement, which made him very happy. In this way, the increase in the strength of his soul would greatly improve his various aspects, especially when fighting against powerful enemies. He would be able to maintain his consciousness. I have to train here before I leave. I can't miss out on such a good place. Etianyan could be considered a cultivation maniac. How could he miss out on such a sacred place to cultivate his soul? Thus, he took each step very seriously, tempering himself. Several years passed in the blink of an eye, but he sat steadily at the end of the bridge, cultivating his soul. He only needed to take a step forward, and he would be able to cross the bridge of worries. However, he did not do so. Instead, he continued to cultivate. He felt that he could improve further and strengthen his soul. Ding. Soul strength successfully increased to peak God Monarch. After cultivating here for a few years, he finally experienced another breakthrough, raising his soul level to the peak. This was not an easy task, but it was easily accomplished here. It was unknown how long he had cultivated outside to reach this level. He only needed to spend a few years here to successfully break through. It was really easy. After successfully breaking through, he realized that his improvement speed was extremely limited. It was basically very slow. If he wanted to break through, he would need to cultivate for a few hundred years or even 1,000 years before he could break through. It seems like this place is effective, but only for those below God Monarch. It won't work when I am near the breakthrough point. Etianyan wasn't greedy and felt content. At least he could cultivate here and improve his soul strength, which was hard to break through outside. Then he raised his head and looked to the side. He had been here for a few years and saw an endless stream of souls walking forward. The souls didn't stop at all. Sometimes they were fast and sometimes they were slow. Sometimes they were fast and sometimes they were slow. Basically, after one passed, another would pass. Only when one passed would the next pass. It was always in the same order. The souls didn't even look at him. They just walked forward with dull eyes and disappeared into the mysterious house. It's time to go. Etianyan got up, lifted his foot and stepped forward, easily walking to the front. When he stepped on the ground, the previous feeling of depression immediately disappeared without a trace. Ding, successfully completed the special quest, break through to the point where you can cross the Forget Sorrow Bridge and find the truth. Obtained 1000 compression EXP, 1000 compression crazy point, 1000 compression proficiency, 10,000 compression sin value. After crossing the Forget Sorrow Bridge, the task was officially completed, and he got a lot of rewards. The data points that were about to be used up were quickly replenished. This reward is not bad, but it's a bit monotonous, but it's more practical. Experience rewards were already a common occurrence. Now he just wanted to see if he could get a special reward, such as a title or some kind of weapon. These were the main points. Immediately he looked at the house in front of him. It's time to go in and understand the real situation. He thought he couldn't come in this time, but he finally succeeded. Not only did he succeed, but he also got a lot of rewards. Looking around, there was only this small house. There really wasn't anything else. Following him, he lifted his foot and walked inside. After stepping into the house, his eyes suddenly opened up. The outside looks extremely small, but after walking in, the inside is as spacious as a temple. In front of Tianyan, there are 3 large pools. The souls that walked in chose to jump into one of the pools, and eventually disappeared completely from his sight. Pools. Tianyan approached, and found that there are 3 pictures in these 3 large pools. The first picture is the heaven realm. The second picture is the mortal realm. The third picture is the ghost realm. Reincarnation pool? Tianyan was shocked. Reincarnation has always existed, but he has never seen it as perfect as the 3 realms. These souls will unconsciously choose a place to reincarnate, randomly choose 3 places. They have long lost consciousness, so where they choose to reincarnate depends on their luck. After they came in, they would walk forward. Some of them walked diagonally, and went to the heaven realm. Some of them went to the underworld or the mortal realm. Chapter 1367. Reincarnation had always been very mysterious, and no one could control it. Therefore, people had to wait for their memories to be awakened before they knew what was going on. As for which deity realm they would be reincarnated into and which race they would be reincarnated into, it was completely random. That was why Heavenly Venerate Killer God chose to possess a body instead of reincarnating. First of all, the bloodline was not fixed, and they might be reincarnated into a body with an extremely weak physique. At that time, not to mention awakening their memories, it would be good for them to be alive. But now it was different here. It was completely fixed. The reincarnation area was in the 3 realms, and they did not wander around. Even he was stunned by this phenomenon. Although he had guessed this before he came in, he was still shocked when he saw it for himself. This really shocked him. Things that were impossible in the outside world could be done here. It looked so perfect, without any loopholes. He watched from the side. After these souls jumped into the reincarnation pool, they were quickly born, and eventually became babies. This scene could be seen from the reincarnation pool, and he could see everything outside. Since he did not have any memories, everything was the same. If I jump down, won't I be able to reincarnate? Tianyan thought that if he kept his memories and jumped down from here, he would be able to reincarnate successfully, which was even more effective than possessing a body. As long as he kept his memories and started cultivating from a young age, he would undoubtedly win at the starting line. However, he could not choose which family he would be born into. It was still random and not fixed. Even so, this was already very amazing. Shortly after, he raised his head and looked in front of him. There was a stone slab in front of him, and it was densely packed with information. After he saw some of the information, he was immediately stunned. This information was very simple and crude. Those with cultivation higher than the Saint King stage cannot be reincarnated here. Moreover, those who were not born in the 3 realms deity realm could not be reincarnated here. These 2 rules, the first of which was the simplest and crudest, destroyed Tianyun's previous idea. It meant that those who had broken through to the Saint King stage or above, which was the Star Venerate level, could not be reincarnated here. Seems like it's not that perfect. It hasn't reached a heaven-defying level, and can reincarnate at will. Tianyan shook his head. He thought that everything would be perfect. No matter how strong he was, he would be invincible here. Not to mention reincarnation, just the problem of death was no longer a worry. The dead would come in as souls and be reborn. As long as he kept his memories, there wouldn't be any problems. At the very least, he wouldn't die. Even if his talent wasn't as good, he would still be alive. But now it seemed that he had been too naive. Even someone as powerful as a 9th-grade divine engraving master couldn't do this. However, being able to reincarnate within the Saint King stage was already quite amazing. The densely packed divine seals on the ground spread out in all directions, and enveloped the entire area. At the same time, The reincarnation pool was constantly absorbing energy. That was the only way to maintain the reincarnation pool. Without energy, it would have shut down a long time ago. Other than that, the side was empty. There was only an entrance in front of them, but no one knew where it led to. I don't know what other secrets there are in front of me. Tianyan walked directly forward and soon entered the passage. As Tianyan walked into the passage, he saw a variety of images on the walls. Every corner of the three realms was presented on the wall, and it was constantly changing. This place was like a place to observe the outside world. Everything outside could be seen in one's eyes. Is this an observation room? Tianyan walked over and reached out to touch the wall. When he just touched the wall, he found that his arm passed through the wall and penetrated to another area. Can I pass through? He was shocked and stretched his head forward, and then easily passed through the wall and came to the scene that matched the picture. Here is a snowy mountain area, which is the location where Jade Palace was originally located, and it is still snowing here. The original address of Jade Palace is still there, and it has been renovated, but now it's not inhabited, and it's used for sightseeing. In fact, it is regarded as a historical site, as a kind of memorial, to commemorate the development of the Heavenly Clouds Empire from this scale step by step. From time to time, cultivators come to visit as a tourist spot, and at the same time, explain various historical events at that time, which amazed them. Master, was Heavenly Cloud's great emperor that strong at that time? Yes, he was very strong. At that time he turned the tide and saved the entire Jade Palace. Otherwise, Jade Palace would have been completely destroyed. I will surpass Heavenly Cloud's great emperor and become a stronger existence. Shu, don't talk nonsense. If you are heard, you will be beheaded. Master, this is not a display of impoliteness, but a display of respect. I want to be stronger like Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, to protect the three realms. If I don't surpass Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, what's the point? I think Heavenly Cloud's great emperor must want more powerhouses to appear to protect the three realms and rule the great god realm. The disciple's tone was excited, and his eyes were full of worship, but the more worship he has, the more he wants to surpass. Smack. Enough, these words are not wrong, but it's better not to talk nonsense. The master patted the disciple's small head, motioning him not to talk nonsense. His companions next to him looked at him with reproachful eyes, motioning him not to talk nonsense, lest he will be implicated. Now Tianyan is the existence of God. They dare not blaspheme him even half a word. This young man dared to talk like this. He must be tired of living. Interesting. Tianyan looked at the situation here from the sky, paying more attention to the situation of this kid. This bold kid's cultivation is not high, only spirit refinement realm, but he is about 10 years old, which is a good talent. However, what he admired was that courage and insight. One had to learn to surpass others and not be willing to stay at the bottom. He wants more powerhouses to appear, not afraid to surpass him, so he chose not to break through so fast. Moreover, who can match his speed of breakthrough? Yes, when things are over, it's time to choose a disciple. He hasn't recruited disciples yet, but now it seems that it's time to recruit some disciples. As a direct disciple, there is no doubt that they can do things for him and protect the three realms. Immediately he retracted his head. Everything is fine, no one found him. In fact, no one will find him at all. Looking up from below, they will see nothing. Chapter 1368. A personal disciple could be said to be necessary, but it could also be said to be unnecessary. It all depended on one's own choice. Tianyan had a body full of treasures, but he had no way of imparting them. Even Sishue and Shuyan couldn't do so, mainly because they weren't suitable. He needed a disciple who was suitable to cultivate the martial arts that he taught. Only then would he be able to impart them. The benefit of this was that he would have a loyal disciple and a super expert. He didn't have much, but he had a lot of resources. Nurturing a disciple would be extremely fast, and he just had to throw resources at it. High-grade Heaven Path martial arts weren't a problem. However, he couldn't find one that fit his requirements. He had to pay attention to the balance of the 5 elements, and he had to be like him, an existence that cultivated 10 refinements of the Earth Monarch. Let's talk about this in the future. This kid is quite interesting. Tianyan was quite interested in this brave kid. This courage and insight was enough to make him interested in taking him in as a disciple. Maybe taking him in as an in-name disciple wouldn't be a bad idea either. He didn't need an outstanding talent, but absolute loyalty. If there wasn't even loyalty, how could he impart his teachings? After that was hard work and diligence, and finally talent. Those without talent might have limited achievements in the later stages, but he didn't need all of his disciples to be top-notch. This type of disciple didn't have to play the role of surpassing him, or being a super genius. He just had to be loyal and steady. Usually he could still participate in the discussion of big matters. Soon after, he turned his gaze back to the wall. As he looked at it, the scenery around him changed in different ways. Everything was fine, and everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. In the few years that he wasn't around, everything was stable and united. Normally, nothing would happen unless he offended an enemy. Only then would he attract a fatal disaster. Now that he had offended an enemy, who would know that he was the culprit? Especially the death of Celestial Venerable Godslayer, no one would suspect him. How could a first-grade God realm kill Celestial Venerable Godslayer? As he walked, the path was really long. The main thing was that this was like flattening the three realms, turning it into a long corridor. He could observe everything along the way, taking in all the details. Therefore, this corridor seemed rather long. Tianyun's walking speed was considered fast. At the same time, he kept looking around. When one's cultivation reaches a certain level, they no longer need this kind of observation room. Looks like this is a place for strolling. When one's cultivation broke through to the Earth Monarch realm, one's spiritual awareness would be able to explore any corner at will. It was no different from looking with one's eyes. However, Tianyan reckoned that it was just his hobby, and he couldn't control it. Soon he saw the exit in front of him. He sped up and passed through the corridor in one breath, entering the exit. After getting out, Chen Feng's vision suddenly opened up. The first thing he saw was a 5-element sphere of light spinning before him, releasing energy continuously. 5 elements core, 6th grade core, belongs to the super core type, extremely rare. It was a super core that had fused the 5 elements together, and its power was astonishing. This was the supreme power of the 5 elements. 6th grade core, 5 elements supreme power? Tianyan sucked in a breath of cold air. It was fine that it was a 6th grade core, but it was a core that fused the 5 elements together. Not only was it rare, it was simply unprecedented. It was still possible to see a single element core, but now that there was a fusion of multiple elements, that was really unprecedented. He didn't expect that the place he came to was actually where one of the cores was located. At this moment, he thought of the other 2 cores. Were they the 5 elements core? At least this one was the 5 elements core. Now wouldn't he be able to absorb it into his body like crazy, increase the fusion of energy in his body, and also form a 5 elements core? Now he had the metal, water, and wood attributes. The thunder attribute was not counted as one of the 5 elements. This meant that if he absorbed it, he would be able to replenish the energy of the other 3 attributes. This is too crazy. The 5 elements fused into a core. Tianyan felt the surging energy. It was probably something that even a heavenly venerable couldn't compare to. At the same time, he didn't dare to go near. If he went near casually, just the energy fluctuations alone would probably be able to turn his soul into ashes. Then he observed his surroundings. There was nothing here except for the 5 elements core. As for the other places, there were no other entrances. The back area of the 5 elements core was a dead end. Apart from that, there was nothing else. Absorb this 5 elements core, and you will become the true controller of the mortal realm. At the same time, open the other 2 trial paths. At this moment, a line of words appeared in the void, causing Tianyan below to be stunned. He didn't expect this to be a trial mission. Absorbing the 5 elements core would allow him to become the controller of the mortal realm. Ding. Successfully accepted the special mission. Become the controller of the mortal realm. Upon completion of the mission, you will receive the title Controller of the Mortal Realm. You will be able to activate the strongest effect of the mortal realm. As for the other rewards, none. The true controller of the mortal realm? There's such a thing? Tianyan was taken aback. With his strength, how could he not be considered the true controller? When he saw the five elements core, he knew that the true controller was the controller of this five elements core. The five elements core represented the power of the mortal realm. The key was that there was no reward. This made Tianyan speechless. After completing this kind of mission, he didn't even have any experience points, and he just received a title? However, he didn't think too much about it. Even if he received this simple reward, he felt that it must be because the reward was so amazing that it wouldn't come with other rewards. The true controller of the mortal realm? Looks like I have to give it a try. Tianyan's eyes lit up. He immediately sat down to meditate and began to absorb the energy from the five elements core. If he could absorb it, he would be able to condense 2 more planets in his body. This way, he would meet the requirements of the previous mission, which was to break through to the Heavenly Lord level, which required 5 planets. If he were to absorb it now, wouldn't he have 2 more planets? He didn't stop for a second and immediately began to absorb it madly, guiding the energy out bit by bit. After absorbing it into his body, after a period of buffering, he immediately began to condense 2 cores of energy. One was of the earth attribute, and the other was of the fire attribute. To be able to condense 2 cores in one go was really unprecedented. I wonder what kind of power I would have after successfully absorbing it and becoming a true controller. Chapter 1369. The rest of Tianyan's time was spent crazily absorbing the energy of the 6th grade 5-element core. It could be said that he had picked up an invincible treasure. This sort of treasure was already at the upper Empyrean spirit treasure level, perhaps even more precious. A 6th grade core was already amazing enough. Now with the addition of a 5-element core, the effects were even more amazing. Tianyan deeply sighed. Just what sort of divine being was able to create the 3 realms? Just what sort of heaven-defying cultivation did they have? He felt that an Empyrean level was already impossible. Only someone above the Empyrean level could create such an amazing 3 realms. The truth was that just a 9th grade divine inscriber was enough to show that their cultivation was far beyond the Empyrean level, but an even higher level. But how amazing was an even higher level? He couldn't imagine this, but there was one thing he knew. It was absolutely heaven-defying. Slapping an Empyrean to death with a single slap was as simple as that. He believed that he could find the answer he needed in the 4th grade God realm. As time passed, 2 cores rapidly condensed within his body. Because these were the 5-element cores, all the other attribute energies surged towards him and into the other planets. This wasn't a big problem. It was the same as absorbing more energy and continuing to strengthen the size of the planets. If he didn't have a single attribute planet, then he would be condensing 5 at once. This was truly amazing. Even so, it was impossible for him to come in without condensing any planets. If he didn't have planet energy in his body, then he wouldn't even be able to make a breakthrough. If he couldn't make a breakthrough, then there was no need to even think about coming here. Time passed year by year. The 3 realms God realm rapidly developed. Under the management of Shuiyun and the others, everything was operating at an extremely fast pace. Their cultivations rose by leaps and bounds and resources were poured in. In addition, they expanded their influence, picked spirit herbs, and hunted monster beasts. All of these were given out as rewards. As for the other influences, there were basically no influences that came looking for him. Those that came looking for him had already been found. Those that didn't come looking for him wouldn't come looking for him. Of course, those that came looking for him were all decided by Shuiyun. There was no need for Tianyan to personally decide. In the blink of an eye, 50 years passed. Tianyan had been cultivating and condensing for 50 years. This was the first time he had absorbed for such a long time. Mainly because the absorption speed was too slow. The energies of the 5 elemental cores were too condensed. Trying to absorb even a strand of energy was like a tug of war. It was extremely difficult. It was so stable that it was difficult for him to absorb it. However, no matter how difficult it was, he still had to absorb it. After all, He had plenty of time and had nothing to do for the time being. Especially since this was equivalent to cultivation. It was just a side effect. After condensing for 50 years, the planets in his body finally formed. The 5 major planets rotated in his body, continuously releasing all kinds of energy and filling his body. This was not the end. The 5 planets had to be gathered together to form a huge 5-element core. Only then would it be considered complete. If that was not the case, then it could only be judged as a failure. Just condensing 5 planets couldn't be considered a success at all. It could only be considered a foundation. It's about to condense into one. I can only succeed. If I fail, I'll die. Etienne's eyes lit up. It was extremely difficult to gather 5 planets together. If he failed, his body would explode and he would die. If he succeeded, not only would he be able to complete the mission, but he would also become the true ruler of the mortal world. Boom. Accompanied by a loud boom, the 5 planets collided and produced an earth-shattering sound. The 5 planets directly exploded and turned into piles of rubble. Etienne also felt as if he had suffered a heavy blow. All sorts of sounds rang in his head, and he almost fainted. Defend your beer. Etienne guarded his beer to prevent himself from losing consciousness. Once he lost consciousness, he would be dead. Even if he had a life to use, he didn't want to experience that kind of death. Moreover, this kind of thing needed to be successful in one go. If he failed, even if he came back to life, it would be very difficult to condense it again. While maintaining a clear state, he condensed the countless rubble again. The dissipating energy in the surroundings was quickly gathered by him. Following that, countless rubble began to condense from all directions, piecing together bit by bit, forming a huge planet. This also required a very long time to condense and take shape. But according to this pace, the time needed was not short. The real key was still the constantly dissipating energy. If it was too late, the energy would disperse and it would be difficult to condense successfully. Without the energy to assist in condensing, how could it succeed? It could be said that Etienne was racing against time. He began to speed up the condensing, but the speed was still too slow. This was like a huge house. Eventually, it might be possible to build a house with bricks stacked one by one, but the speed was too slow. This might require a lot of time. By the time he completed it, everything would have failed. Too slow, too slow. Cold sweat dripped from Etienne's forehead. He didn't expect the condensing speed to be so slow. This meant that if this continued, he would definitely fail. 5 planets were really too many. This was like building a small house. Perhaps one person could do it faster. But what if he built a castle? Just one person wouldn't be able to keep up with the speed. I wonder if crazy mode can increase the speed? He didn't think too much and immediately used crazy mode. The energy in his body was quickly stimulated to the fastest speed, directly stacking up to 128 times the speed. The planet energy circulating in his body began to circulate at a crazy speed. Dong dong dong. Pieces of meteorites collided together crazily and condensed to form a small half of a planet. In just the blink of an eye, he had successfully condensed a small half of a planet. The speed was much faster. Compared to before, the speed was 128 times faster. How could it not be fast? This was a little beyond Etienne's expectations. He just wanted to give it a try, but he didn't expect it to really succeed. The condensing speed had increased by 128 times. It was really incredible. Based on this speed, it won't take too long to successfully condense. Etienne was pleasantly surprised. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the huge planet began to condense, emitting colorful light. Based on the current situation, it would take at most a few days to condense successfully. It wouldn't take too long. With this, the worry in his heart was immediately relieved. He didn't need to worry about the condensing failure, which would lead to problems. It's a pity that this crazy mode can't be used to absorb energy. Otherwise, it wouldn't take so long. Chapter 1370. The crazily condensed planets were quickly pieced together, forming a huge planet. This huge planet shone with 5-colored light. The environment inside was not a monotonous 5-colored world. Instead, it had turned into a real world with life, full of mountains and rivers. Actually, it was not difficult to condense mountains and rivers. The key was that the mountains and rivers in this planet were filled with the power of the 5 elements. Unlike other planets, which looked like they had all kinds of mountains and rivers, the attributes inside were actually very simple. To put it bluntly, it was beautiful. The real inside was not like the real world outside, which had all kinds of energy. Now that he had condensed this planet, it was like the real world outside. It seemed like it could even condense life. Of course, it was just a feeling. It was too difficult to actually condense it. However, it was not a problem for many living beings to cultivate inside. The environment here was very good, many times better than the outside world. Under the crazy acceleration mode, it did not take more than a few days for the planets in his body to condense successfully, forming an extremely huge planet. However, it was not the size of the previous 5 planets put together. Instead, it became smaller. Logically speaking, the accumulated energy of the 5 planets should be larger. Now it became smaller, but it condensed more terrifying energy. It was much more solid than before, and its grade had even shot up to rank 6 in one go. Absorbing the rank 6 energy from the outside world could naturally increase the power of the core in his body to the rank 6 level. It could not possibly decrease, right? I finally succeeded. Is this the planet condensed by the 5 elements? Etianyan was excited. He could clearly feel the energy in his body had greatly increased. His cultivation did not change, but his cohesion had greatly increased. If he could unleash the power of the 5 elements in his body, it would definitely be far more effective than before. The key was that he had succeeded. He had successfully completed this mission. He had successfully completed it before the start of the Divine Territory battle. Immediately, he stood up and walked toward the 5 elements. At this time, he did not feel any sense of danger. After all, the 5 elements had already been assimilated. It was impossible for him to completely absorb the 5 elements, but it was not a problem for him to be recognized. After being acknowledged, he would be able to pass this trial. He wouldn't have to completely suck the 5 elemental cores dry. To achieve this step, his current cultivation was still far from enough. If his original cultivation was a little stronger, perhaps the condensation speed would have increased a lot. Fortunately, he had crazy mode to make up for it. Otherwise, it would have ended in failure. This was a blessing in disguise. Otherwise, it would really be troublesome. Congratulations on completing the 5 elements core trial. You have become the true ruler of the mortal world. At this moment, a beam of golden light enveloped him. At the same time, a mark appeared in the void and was branded on his forehead. This brand disappeared in the blink of an eye, as if nothing had appeared on it. Following that, a surge of memories surged into his mind, causing him to close his eyes and carefully comprehend the contents within. After a long time, he slowly opened his eyes. So the mortal realm is actually so frightening. This level of power can't even be considered mortal. This memory was telling him how to activate the power of the mortal realm. As for the details, he didn't say anything. He didn't even mention anything about the reincarnation pool or other miscellaneous matters. It was clear that even if he obtained the 5 elemental core trial, he still wouldn't be able to obtain the truth. Ding! You have successfully completed the special mission. Become the Mortal World Controller. You have obtained the title Mortal World Controller. You will be able to activate the strongest effect of the mortal world. The rest of the rewards, nothing. Mortal World Controller has absolute control over the mortal realm. Can control the souls of the mortal realm at will. Can go to any region to reincarnate or reconstruct the body. At the same time, can control the power of the 5 elements core to counterattack. Control the soul to reincarnate? Etianyan thought that it would be very powerful. But it turned out that there was a special effect that could control the soul to reincarnate to any region in the 3 realms. Currently, it was up to him to control. But it didn't mean much, because those who surpassed the Saint King stage could not reincarnate, so it didn't mean much to him. Unless this limit was raised to a higher level, then it would have a little meaning. But there was another effect that was really amazing, and that was to reconstruct the body. This meant that those who were in the Saint King stage and below could reconstruct the body at will. Even he was shocked by this point. This was the only way to show how powerful a title was. I hope the effect will increase in the future. If that's the case, I will really become an army of the undead. Tianyan thought of that scene, and was excited. No matter how he died, as long as the soul in the three realms was reconstructed. In the face of such an army, who would dare to act recklessly? But he soon noticed a small line of words at the back. The content was, "For every 1,000 souls reborn, there is a cooldown time of 100 years. I thought it would be infinite rebirth, but it seems that I was too naive. There is still a cooldown time." Tianyan shook his head, but it didn't mean much to him for the time being. Those whose cultivation was too low basically didn't need to participate in the battle, so there wouldn't be too much danger. But it was better than nothing. Maybe it would be useful in the future. Rumble. At this time, the sound of the door opening came from the front, attracting his attention. On the back of the five elements core, two big channels were opened, and two forces rushed out. One of them was full of light, and the other was full of cold, two completely different forces. The power of light and dark? Tianyan's eyes narrowed. He immediately felt what the other two trials were. There is no doubt that one of them should be the light core, and the other should be the dark core. These are two super rare cores, and they can combine to form the strongest existence. He didn't expect such a rare core to be dug out and placed in the three realms. Heaven represented the light core, the mortal world represented the five elements core, and the underworld represented the dark core. No matter which core, they were all super rare existences. If one had all of them, he would be an invincible existence. The premise was that he could control all of them. If he could control them, he would definitely become a super overlord. Too powerful. The more I understand, the more terrifying I feel. Seems like this is the treasure left behind by that almighty being. Tianyan's eyes were filled with excitement. He hadn't seen such a shocking treasure in a long time. When he obtained the five elements core, and found out about its power, he was already shocked. What if he could control all of them? What kind of power would it reach? Chapter 1371. Tianyan walked to the back of the core. If it was before, he wouldn't have been able to get close at all. If he got close, his soul would be destroyed by the violent energy. Even if he didn't die, he would become an idiot. Now that he was one, he could pass through the core and come to the back. When he came to the back, the feeling was even stronger. The energy of light and darkness was constantly being released from the front. When he got close, he felt a sense of pressure coming from the front. It made him feel pressured and it was hard to move forward. There's no way to get in. Tianyan frowned. He thought that he could pass two trials in one go. It seemed like he was too naive. The trial ahead was even more terrifying. When the energy was released, Tianyan felt like his skin was disappearing. If he continued to enter, there was no doubt that his soul would be destroyed. The energy ahead was too strong. It wasn't something he could advance with his current standard. Ding. Successfully accepted the special mission Pass Trial of Light or Dark. Successfully completed the mission and obtained the title Heaven Realm Controller or Netherworld Controller. The rewards were the same. There weren't any changes. He didn't even get any extra experience points. The mission is split into two. It seems like I have to complete two more to become the real owner of this place. Tianyan wasn't surprised. As mentioned before, after absorbing this place, he could only be considered as the mortal realm controller. This meant that there was still the title of Heaven Realm Controller or Netherworld Controller. If that was the case, then there would be two trials. Now that he couldn't participate in them, he had to raise his cultivation base to continue. It seemed like he could only give up now. It's about time to leave. Tianyan didn't stay here for long. He stepped into the special teleportation circle and disappeared from the area. Shortly after, his soul returned to his body. Nothing seemed to have changed. Finally back to my own body. It's still the most comfortable to stay in my own body. Tianyan twisted his body and loosened his bones. This body seemed to be meditating here. It looked like his soul had left his body, but in reality, It was still connected and not truly separated. However, he felt that he could enter that place with his physical body. It was just that he didn't have the authority to enter. Shortly after, his figure flashed and he returned to his hall. Shi Shuyan happened to be here dealing with some matters. When she saw him appear, her beautiful eyes were filled with reproach. Finally willing to come back? This is the longest time you have been away in history. He had been gone for more than 50 years. It had never been so long in the past. I've been cultivating in seclusion for a long time. My apologies. Yi Tianyan walked over with a smile. Shi Shuyan was just grumbling casually. It was nothing much. As long as Yi Tianyan was safe, that was enough for her. After all, with their cultivation, 50 years was basically equivalent to 5 days. It was not a long time. Forget it. Right now, the situation in the Three Realms God realm is steadily improving. Most cultivators' cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds. There are more than 30 Earth Monarchs. There are more than 10 Lord of Heaven realm cultivators. As for Star Venerates, there are... Yi Tianyan nodded. After hearing about it, his cultivation had indeed improved by leaps and bounds. His overall strength was already comparable to a Grade 2 God realm. Furthermore, he had reached this level in a short 50 years. Of course, there was still a long way to go before he could reach the higher end of a Grade 2 God realm. However, with Yi Tianyan present, this gap would be filled immediately. With an existence comparable to a heavenly venerate, he was already stronger than most Grade 2 God realms. However, Grade 2 God realms usually had Grade 3 God realms as their backing. In theory, they were still inferior. Seems like your overall breakthrough is not bad? Yi Tianyan's eyes lit up. After a while, your overall strength will definitely be comparable to a Grade 2 God realm. Right. We have abundant resources, and we are very proactive in our cultivation. We all responded to your call and cultivated fervently. This result is somewhat unexpected. Everyone's cultivation is breaking through very quickly. Shi Shuyan was also a little excited. Seeing her own faction growing stronger, she naturally felt excited and full of confidence. Very good. In that case, I will continue refining pills and speed up my progress. Yi Tianyan nodded. Now that most of the things were done, all that was left was to wait for the battle of the divine realms. Shi Shuyan nodded and continued with her work. Yi Tianyan also began to busy himself with alchemy and immersed himself in alchemy. There were alchemists in the Three Realms, but their refining speed was limited. In addition, there were many cultivators, so there was a relatively large gap. Otherwise, Yi Tianyan would not have spent time refining pills. Time passed quickly. Yi Tianyan was completely focused on refining pills. During this time, the other God realms quieted down. There was no communication at all. Everyone was busy. In fact, there were still a few decades before the battle of the divine realms. The situation was still relatively urgent. Whether or not it would affect the Three Realms, they had to be prepared. The news he received from various sources was the same. The God realms were all making their own preparations. Among them, the God realms that allied with the Three Realms all sent envoys to discuss the situation. It was relatively simple. When the battle of the divine realms happened, they hoped that they could help each other. If there was a problem with one side, they hoped that they could find a place to hide. They did not have extravagant hopes of helping them resist, just a place to hide. If they resisted, who could resist the battle of Grade 3 God realms? They could only hide without any resistance. The atmosphere is getting heavier. It's about time to head over to the Heavenly Spring God realm and inform Sister Luli of the situation. Yi Tianyan had promised Luli Region Master not to join a Grade 3 God realm. He did not break his promise and directly participated in the battle of the divine realms. There was no connection between the two. Back then, Luli Region Master did not expect that Yi Tianyan would participate in the battle of the divine realms. She only advised him not to join a Grade 3 God realm. After refining a batch of elixirs and giving instructions, he went to the Heavenly Spring God realm to look for Luli Region Master. The Heavenly Spring God realm was also strengthening in all aspects. Most of the disciples had returned from outside and could not go out anymore. Heavenly Cloud Region Master, You are finally back. We have been looking for you for a long time. Lord Region Master said that all elders and disciples must come back. Elder Go Huang heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Yi Tianyan return. Where is Luli Region Master? I have something important to discuss with her, Yi Tianyan asked. What is it? I was just about to have a meeting. It's perfect that you are back. We can discuss it together. Elder Go Huang did not know the purpose of Yi Tianyan's return. He thought that Yi Tianyan had returned from training. Chapter 1372. Yi Tianyan, Elder Go Huang, and the rest entered the meeting room. Region Lord Glaze had been waiting for a long time. When she saw Yi Tianyan enter, she smiled faintly. You're back. Region Lord Glaze smiled faintly. Yes, I'm back. Yi Tianyan exchanged a smile with her. There was no need for words. Simple eye contact was enough. Then they quickly made arrangements. After all the elders had taken their seats, Region Lord Glaze looked at them and said in a low voice, It's actually very simple to gather all the elders here. I believe that everyone has heard the rumors, right? In less than 50 years, the Battle of God's Domain will officially begin. All the elders nodded, indicating that they already knew. This news spread like wildfire. Other than Fan Yu's forces, almost all the forces in the Divine Domain knew about it. This was not the first time the Divine Domain War was held. Therefore, every time it was about to begin, everyone was worried that they would be implicated. Those who were more timid would directly hide in the ordinary realm. It was undoubtedly safer there. Since everyone knows, I have nothing more to say. Basically, all the disciples and elders are not allowed to go out during this period of time. All of them are to stay here and prepare. For example, in terms of defense, we must be fully prepared. Resistance and the like must be done. What we are facing is not the attack of a Grade 3 God realm, nor are we defending against them. We are the lackeys of a Grade 3 God realm, the Grade 2 God realm. Region Lord Glaze said in a low voice. What we need to guard against are these Grade 2 God realms. We are not relying on any Grade 3 forces. Recently, there have been many Grade 3 forces trying to recruit us, but I rejected them all. If we agree, it means that we are betting on them. Once they are destroyed, we will be the ones to suffer. It can even be said that when the Divine Domain War starts, as their subordinates, we will be easily attacked. Choosing a team was very important. Once they chose the wrong team, it would be troublesome. Therefore, until now, the Heavenly Spring Divine Domain had not joined any Grade 3 God realms. Similarly, not choosing a team would also attract all kinds of trouble. That was, all kinds of methods used by the Grade 3 God realms to make things difficult or force them. The further he went, the stronger the coercion became. It was almost time for the Divine Realm War. They needed more powerhouses and more troops. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to win this war. We support Region Lord Glazed's idea. Randomly joining a Grade 3 God realm has never led to a good end. One of the elders chimed in. The other elders nodded in agreement. In the past wars of the Divine Realm, it had never been a good thing. The ones who suffered were always the weaker influences. Hence, during this period of time, we need to strengthen our defenses and make breakthroughs in our strength in order to stabilize the upcoming Divine Domain War. If we can stabilize ourselves, then in the future we will also have a chance to participate in the Divine Realm War. They weren't afraid of death and also wanted to participate in the Divine Realm War. But with their qualifications, they simply weren't qualified enough. When they reached Grade 3 God Realm, they would be able to participate in the God Realm battle. For a Grade 3 God Realm expert, this battle was a battle for honor. Pa pa pa. At this time the sound of applause came from the gate. Everyone turned their heads and saw an unfamiliar face standing at their door. Many people didn't even notice when this person had come in. Yi Tianyan knew, but he didn't act immediately. Instead, he observed what the other party wanted to do. Well said. I roughly understand your intention to participate in the Divine Realm War. Divine Lord Yilong stood out and sneered. However, I don't have that many choices for you. Either be destroyed now, or join our Sacred Peak God Realm. Sacred Peak God Realm. Yi Tianyan's gaze turned cold. He immediately recalled that a long time ago, when the divine beast of the starfield came to capture people, it was actually from the sacred peak god realm. This was all told to him by the divine emperor Yuqin. After such a long time, what exactly had happened to the divine emperor Yuqin? The divine emperor Yuqin had helped him a lot in the past, but he had always been under their control, unable to break free. He was probably still in the sacred peak god realm, serving this disgusting sacred peak god realm. But now, the sacred peak god realm couldn't sit still, and directly came to threaten him. Isn't your sacred peak divine realm too arrogant? Do you think the other god realms don't exist? Colored Glaze Region Master stood up. The aura of a heavenly venerable pressed over, causing Divine Lord Long to stagger and almost fall to the ground. Colored Glaze Region Master had successfully broken through to the heavenly venerable realm, becoming a trump card. With a heavenly venerable present, he could indeed protect a god realm existence. Congratulations, Colored Glaze Region Master. The elders were overjoyed. They didn't know that Colored Glaze Region Master had already broken through to the heavenly venerable realm. This way, the heavenly spring god realm would have more confidence. Tianyan smiled. He already knew. Colored Glaze Region Master breaking through to the heavenly venerable realm was a sure thing. Indeed, after cultivating for a while, he had successfully broken through to the heavenly venerable realm. Heavenly venerable? Divine Lord Elong's face darkened. He hadn't expected there to be a heavenly venerable here. However, he was still extremely arrogant. Even so, I have just broken through to the heavenly venerable realm. I can't protect the heavenly spring god realm. Plus, you have a heavenly venerable, but we don't. At this time, a black shadow slowly appeared at the side, appearing in front of everyone without anyone noticing. An extremely strong pressure emitted from his body, spreading in all directions. In the entire conference hall, the elders felt a sense of helplessness. This helplessness was the feeling of futility in struggling. No matter how they struggled, it was useless. Divine Lord cultivation was strong, but facing a heavenly venerable, it was trash. Colored Glaze Region Master's face changed slightly. The opponent was actually at the middle stage heavenly venerable realm. He was much stronger than her, who had just broken through to the heavenly venerable realm. The two of them couldn't be compared. Elder Shihong, I'll leave this place to you. Divine Lord Elong's face was full of regret. He had thought that Elder Shihong wouldn't need to take action, but now it seemed that he had thought too much. Okay. Heavenly Venerable Shihong stood up and said indifferently, "It seems that you still have some confidence. It's a little beyond my expectations. No wonder you rejected the recruitment from other god realms. With a Heavenly Venerable, you do have some confidence. However, this confidence seems insignificant in front of us. I don't like to talk nonsense. I'll repeat what Divine Lord Elong said just now. Either be destroyed or surrender. We aren't afraid of the other god realms. Our sacred peak god realm is the strongest god realm in this god realm battle. We have never been afraid of anyone." Chapter 1373. Heavenly Venerate Shihong's words made the faces of all the elders sink. One had to admit that the sacred peak god domain was indeed domineering. Among the many grade 3 god domains, it could be considered one of the strongest. It even had a divine beast of the star field, which proved that it was not simple. Unless it was an extremely powerful god domain, it was impossible to possess a divine beast of the star domain. As for being afraid of the other divine regions, it wasn't a problem for Heavenly Venerate Shihong. In any case, they would have to fight sooner or later. It wouldn't be a problem for them to fall out with the other divine territories. What Region Master Colored Glaze said was that the other god realms also had their eyes on this place. If they were to force their way in, it would be equivalent to not giving them face. They didn't use force, so why did the Heavenly Spring Divine Realm use force? If the other divine realms didn't act forcefully, they would dare to act forcefully. The main thing was that they had the strength to crush and resist everything. The Sacred Peak Celestial Territory did have such strength, and it wasn't Celestial Venerable Shihong's nonsense. A slightly weaker rank, 3/4 would not dare to say that. Since he was so confident, It meant that he had many Empyrean powerhouses. Empyrean powerhouses were the key strength of the divine realm. They were existences that could sweep away all obstacles. Having more Empyreans was the way of the king. This did not mean that a divine realm only needed an Empyrean. Without a steady stream of new bloodlines, it would definitely lead to destruction. There were enough fresh bloodlines and experts in the sacred peak god realm. Moreover, they often went to plunder geniuses, so how could they be weak? In the previous ascending battle, the Heavenly Spring Divine Realm had snatched the top 10 places. Just this alone was a huge blow to the Heavenly Spring Divine Realm. The Sacred Peak Divine Realm is indeed overbearing. You stole our disciple before, and now you're shamelessly threatening us. Region Master Luli sneered. I have to say, your Sacred Peak Divine Realm is really used to being overbearing. So what if we snatch your disciples? With your abilities, you will only waste the potential of a large number of geniuses. Heavenly Venerable Shurhong sneered. He didn't care that the Region Mistress Glaze said that they were thick-skinned. Instead he retorted. These words were like someone who had picked a good spirit herb and snatched it from you, so that you wouldn't waste it. This kind of theory was really strange, and it filled their hearts with anger. Only the Sacred Peak Celestial Territory would talk about snatching people in such a dignified manner. They had spent so much money to organize all kinds of divine realm competitions, all for the sake of filtering out new bloodlines. Now it had been snatched away without any compensation. It was really displeasing. If it weren't for the Sacred Peak Celestial Territory's strength, the other celestial territories would have joined forces to teach the Sacred Peak Celestial Territory a lesson. What a good one. Snatching away our disciple. You're afraid that we'll waste him. Region Lord Glaze was about to explode from anger. Her personality was just like this. She really couldn't stand such things. Today we will choose to refuse. No matter what God's domain comes, we will refuse. If we really force our way through, we'll fight to the end. Even if a grade 3 God Realm expert came to threaten her, she would still resist without fear. The rest of the elders stood straight, similarly unafraid of these grade 3 God Realm masters. From their point of view, they couldn't give up their dignity even if they had to fight to the death. If worst comes to worst, they'll just fight until the last one dies. Even if they can drag the grade 3 God Realm down with them, every last one counts. The reason why the grade 3 God Realms that had tried to recruit Huang Xiaolong did not dare to act recklessly was because they were afraid that the grade 2 God Realms would retaliate. Even if they won, it would be troublesome if something happened at this critical juncture. The battle of the God Realms required strength. If there were any losses, not only would it lower their morale, it would also affect their combat strength. They wouldn't force this kind of unfavorable situation. Heavenly Venerable Shurhong narrowed his eyes as he looked at them. After staring at them for a moment, he smiled faintly and said, Is that so? What if the rest of the elders stand on our side? Heavenly Venerable Shurhong clapped his hands. Very quickly, several elders walked over and stood behind Heavenly Venerable Shurhong. Among them were some of the more senior elders. You guys, when Elder Go Huang looked at them, the anger in his heart surged to the point that his eyes were about to spit fire. Betrayers had always been the most disgusting thing to them. But now it had happened to them. 5 to 6 elders had betrayed them, and one of them was the more respected third elder. Region Lord Glaze, I feel that we need to consider everything at length. The overall strength of the Sacred Peak God Realm is very strong. If we can join them or attach ourselves to them, after the battle of the God Realms ends, we will naturally become a grade 3 God Realm. With the Sacred Peak God Realm as our backing, no one will dare to bully us. The third elder's eyes were filled with coldness. He looked at Region Lord Glaze without a shred of respect. They had already joined the Sacred Peak God Realm, and weren't afraid of Region Lord Glaze and the rest. Even if they joined later, they would have an extremely high status and greater authority. How authority was defined would be managed by the Sacred Peak God Realm. Naturally, there was no need to worry. That's right. A wise man submits to circumstances. We can reject the recruitment of other God Realms, but the Sacred Peak God Realm is different. We have absolute power. We can basically win this battle of the God Realms. Region Lord Glaze just agree to it. Don't resist pointlessly. That will only make your fate more miserable and cause more casualties. These betrayers kept persuading her. It was difficult for them to break through to a higher level. Choosing to join another god realm was undoubtedly a better choice. By relying on the sacred peak god realm, they would definitely be able to obtain more resources and improve themselves. It was difficult to advance in the heavenly spring god realm, and couldn't continue to improve. Swish! A cold light pierced through and sent the third elder flying, pinning him to the wall. Everything happened so quickly and decisively. In the blink of an eye, the third elder was pinned to the wall. This attack was launched by Region Lord Glaze. She didn't say a single word to these betrayers. She immediately used a ruthless move and pinned the third elder to the wall. The blue ribbon in her hand had already turned into a sharp sword and pierced through his body. Trash die! The colored glaze region master fiercely swung the ribbon in her hand, wanting to cut him into two at the waist. Suddenly, a faster figure fiercely slapped the ribbon with a palm. With a bang sound, the ribbon directly exploded into two pieces. At the same time, the elder who was pinned to the wall fell from the sky and smashed onto the ground. The one who attacked was Shi Tianzuanhong. His face was gloomy. He didn't expect Region Lord Glaze to attack so quickly. He didn't even have time to react. He thought that Region Lord Glaze would be desperate and angry. In the end, she would choose to compromise. Now it seemed like he was too naive. Region Lord Glaze wouldn't compromise at all. Chapter 1374. Region Master Glaze, it seems like you're really stubborn. Heavenly Venerable Shihong's expression was ugly. Even if he looked down on these traitors, they had joined his side. Now that they were almost killed in front of him, how could his expression be good? That's how we deal with traitors. Region Master Glaze's gaze was cold. Don't talk to me about a wise man submits to circumstances. It's all bullshit. Traitors are traitors. Don't think I don't know that you're doing this for your own benefit. You feel that you can't do anything, so you chose to join a third-grade god realm. Do you really think it's for the good of the heavenly spring god realm? Tui. Region Master Glaze had a fiery temper. She didn't let anyone off, especially when she said it so bluntly. It made the traitors' faces turn green and white. It was obvious that she had hit the nail on the head. Not only that, but they were also afraid of the sacred peak god realm. They didn't want to die. They wanted to choose a more stable backer. If they made the right bet, they would enjoy amazing treatment after the battle. Region Master Glaze, don't be too stubborn. We have our own thoughts, but it's for the good of the heavenly spring god realm. If we made the right bet, our heavenly spring god realm will soar and enter the third-grade god realm in advance. That's right. Why do you have to do this? The sacred peak god realm is so strong. Don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. You even hurt the third elder. They were indignant at Region Master Glaze, feeling that she was stubborn and uncivilized. What a joke. Do you really think that only the sacred peak god realm has a chance? The myriad heaven god realm is also a strong competitor. Don't think I don't know. Compared to the sacred peak god realm, I favor the myriad heaven god realm more. Moreover, they're all masters. Do you really think they'll help us soar? If we're just a subsidiary from the start, I'd still believe you. Maybe they already have representatives from other god realms in their hearts. It definitely won't be us. Those who join temporarily would definitely not be treated as well as those who joined previously. Dream on if they wanted to become third-grade god realm immediately. In her opinion, they could only be cannon fodder. Heavenly Venerable Shihong narrowed his eyes. He was actually shocked. He didn't expect her to be right. Some were hot-headed and immediately joined, but in the end, they were just cannon fodder. The traitorous elder was startled, but after thinking about it carefully, he realized that it did make sense. It's impossible for us to abandon you. Moreover, if we want to obtain benefits, we must fight. As long as the battle is over, I will definitely give you the best treatment. We don't care about the myriad heaven celestial region. Heavenly Venerable Shihong immediately shouted to prevent the elders from wavering. Moreover, things have already come to this. Your third elder was almost killed. Do you think that even if you give up, the glazed region lord will choose to let you go? Heavenly Venerable Shihong sneered incessantly. Once something started, there was no turning back. The elders looked at the heavily injured third elder. The third elder had almost been killed. If they chose to return, they would probably suffer the same fate as the third elder. Traitors always died the worst. Ignore her. Kill them and seize control of this place. The third elder had already crawled up. Fortunately, Celestial Lord Shihong had saved him. Otherwise he would have definitely died. Under the ferocious attacks of a Heavenly Venerable, it wouldn't be fun. Heavenly Venerable Shihong ignored his words. Instead, he looked at the glazed region lord and the rest and said, I will give you one last chance. Choose to surrender or choose to die. Don't think that I really don't dare to touch you. A mere Heavenly Venerable is nothing to me. He didn't want to waste a Heavenly Venerable, let alone so many experts. If he used them as cannon fodder, he could kill quite a number of people with a single blast. At this moment, a blood-curdling scream was heard. Everyone quickly turned their heads and saw a figure standing beside the third elder. The figure held a spear in his hand and pierced the third elder's head until it exploded. The person who was so daring in front of a Heavenly Venerable was none other than Yi Tianyin. Unknowingly, he had already arrived in front of the third elder and killed the third elder in an instant. Traitors shouldn't speak so much. Yi Tianyin looked at Heavenly Venerable Shihong indifferently. Speaking of which, you stole my words. I really don't care about a mere Heavenly Venerable. His tone was so casual. Even if Heavenly Venerable Shihong was a mid-level lower Heavenly Venerable, he really didn't care about him. What third-grade god domain? Have you heard of the evil spirit god domain? Didn't he still destroy them? Their eyes narrowed. Even the glazed region lord didn't know when Yi Tianyin had gone over. She had been thinking of ways to break through the defensive line and kill these traitors. However, Heavenly Venerable Shihong blocked in front of her. His spiritual perception was already activated, so her sneak attack didn't succeed like before. Yet, under such circumstances, Yi Tianyin still killed the traitors as though he was in a no-man's land. This was undoubtedly a heavy slap in the face. Who are you? Heavenly Venerable Shihong's pores immediately widened, and his eyes were filled with vigilance. To be able to kill someone in front of him, his strength was definitely not simple. Me? I'm the Deputy Region Lord here. Yi Tianyin grinned and said, at the same time, I'm also the Region Lord of another god domain. It just so happens that we will be enemies in the future. If I get rid of you now, things will be much simpler in the future. Not to mention Heavenly Venerable Shihong. Even the glazed region lord and the rest were shocked by Yi Tianyin's words. These words were equivalent to declaring war with the sacred peak god domain. Moreover, it was a declaration of war in the god domain, which meant that they wouldn't rest until one party was dead. The battle of the divine realm was a battle to the death. A battle that would continue until the very last moment. The region lord of another god domain? Which god domain? Heavenly Venerable Shihong's eyes sank. He wasn't in a hurry to make a move, as he had to clarify everything first. I don't know if you have heard of the name of a new god domain, the Three Realms god domain. I'm the region lord there, a region lord who is about to participate in the god domain war. Yi Tianyin said indifferently. The region lord of the Three Realms god domain? They were instantly stunned. They had indeed heard of this, but a first-grade god domain wasn't eye-catching, so they didn't pay much attention to it. Ha ha ha, what a joke. A first-grade god domain dares to be arrogant in front of me? Die. Heavenly Venerable Shihong extended his hand and grabbed. Unknowingly, a wave of energy had already enveloped Yi Tianyin's surroundings and slammed towards him. If he was hit, he would definitely become a meat patty. Heavenly Venerable Shihong wasn't a fool. How could he not be prepared for such a dangerous enemy? Chapter 1375. Yi Tianyin's 5 elements power was rather heaven-defying. After he absorbed the 5 elements core, as long as he knew the other party's attribute, he would immediately release the attribute that countered it, forming a type of attribute suppression. In particular, the grade of the 5 elements core was 6th grade. Most cultivators' planets were at most 2nd grade or 3rd grade. Against a 6th grade core, it was an all-around suppression. This suppression could be experienced in the data, which was a 50% increase in power. Hence, under this attack, Heavenly Venerable Shihong realized that his power was suppressed, and he couldn't release his power. He could have fought with Yi Tianyan, but unfortunately he was too careless. Who would have thought that a divine monarch-level expert would be able to unleash such a terrifying power? Save me, Heavenly Venerable Siyuan! Heavenly Venerate Shihong shouted. However, before his voice could travel out, an even more terrifying power burst forth from within, blasting Heavenly Venerate Shihong into a mist of blood. He didn't even have a chance to be reborn. At the same time, Yi Tianyan reached out and took away all the treasures on him, including the Heavenly Venerable spiritual treasure that he didn't have time to use. Ordinary Heavenly Venerables would have Heavenly Venerable spiritual treasures. But Heavenly Venerable Shihong didn't even have a chance to use it before he was killed. Ding! Successfully killed Heavenly Venerable Shihong, obtained 80,000 compressed experience points, 1,000 compressed crazy points, 1,000 compressed SPs. Obtained Heaven Rainbow Venerable Treasure, Heavenly Venerable Spiritual Treasure. Saint Peak God Realm Information Record. 50 times Experience Card. Leapfrogging Kill. Obtained additional 50,000 compressed experience points. This time, the reward for leapfrogging kill was different, as if it depended on his mood. But to him, this was still very satisfactory. It was better than nothing. Swoosh. At this time, a sharp murderous aura descended on Yi Tianyan. Yi Tianyan didn't hesitate to swing his spear. The 5 elements core and the crazy damage mode burst out, and the spear shot out violently. Dong! An explosive energy exploded in the hall. Regent Lord Liuli had sharp eyes and quick hands. Actually, when Celestial Venerable Hong shouted, he had already dragged the elder at the side to hide to the side. At the same time, he activated the thick protective shield and threw out all kinds of treasures. As for the traitorous elders, they were not so lucky. They were immediately affected by this terrifying power and were sent flying, heavily injured. He wasn't dead, but he was close to it. When the power of 2 Empyrean-level beings erupted, even if they didn't die, they would only be left with a single breath. Pa pa pa. The protective shield on Glazed Region Master's side was constantly being battered by this energy. Faintly, cracks had already appeared, and it was on the verge of shattering. Just as it was about to shatter, the explosion stopped. Right now, the originally luxurious hall had already been reduced to ruins. The guards outside were all affected. Some were dead, and some were injured. It was a tragic sight to behold. The power of a Heavenly Venerate erupted here. These people with low cultivation bases simply couldn't withstand it. After the explosion, the 2 figures bounced away and appeared in everyone's line of sight. There was an unfamiliar figure. Without a doubt, this person was the Heavenly Venerable Siyuan that Celestial Venerable Hong had just called out. No wonder he was so arrogant. With 2 Heavenly Venerates here, they were basically assured of obtaining a Grade 2 God Realm. Even if there were other Heavenly Venerates present, they wouldn't have to worry. Especially since Heavenly Venerable Siyuan was a late-stage lower Heavenly Venerable expert, who was much stronger than Region Lord Liuli. I didn't expect a Region Lord of a Grade 1 God Realm to have such power. This is really an eye-opener for me. Heavenly Venerable Siyuan looked like a middle-aged man. His clothes fluttered slightly, revealing the sturdy armor underneath. This wasn't any armor, but a kind of self-protection. Heavenly Venerable Siyuan was from the demon race. He was a beetle-type demon race. He was covered in thick armor that was incomparably sturdy. It was already equivalent to a Heavenly Venerable spiritual treasure. I knew that there would be helpers hiding at the side. After so long, you finally decided to come out? If the 2 of you had appeared together, this wouldn't have happened. Yi Tianyan had long sensed that there was a powerhouse hiding at the side, but he hadn't exposed it. He just wanted to see when that fellow would come out. They had done this to leave a backup plan. If anyone tried to escape, Heavenly Venerable Hong would immediately come out and suppress them, creating the effect of surrounding and killing them. Who knew that it would backfire and result in Heavenly Venerable Hong's death? If he had been closer, It wouldn't have been much of a problem for him to rescue him given his strength. Heavenly Venerable Si Yuan's heart sank. In fact, he still wanted to fight with Yi Tianyan. However, after the battle just now, he realized that there was no way he could win. If they were to continue fighting, he really wouldn't know who would win. It was even possible that he would die. While he was thinking about what to do, Regent Lord Liuli and the others were really dumbfounded. Putting aside how Yi Tianyan had become the Regent Lord of the Three Realms Sacred Realm, just his strength alone was already beyond their imagination. Isn't this Heavenly Cloud Regent Lord too strong? Cutting up a Heavenly Venerable is like cutting tofu. Just now he even fought with such a powerful Heavenly Venerable without any problems. How did he cultivate? Wasn't the strength he displayed just a half-step to Heavenly Venerable? Isn't the difference too big now? These elders were shocked, wondering if their eyes were playing tricks on them. Previously, he wasn't very strong, but now he was as strong as a heaven-defying Heavenly Venerable. He hid his strength. Regent Lord Liuli immediately guessed this. She felt that Yi Tianyan had hidden his strength. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to reach such a level in just a few decades. Hiding his strength? What's the point? The elders were puzzled. Isn't it the point now? The other party thinks that the Heavenly Cloud Region Lord is too weak. One careless mistake, and he will lose his life. Regent Lord Liuli smiled. Now it's interesting. I didn't expect that the Heavenly Spring Sacred Realm would ultimately be saved by one person. She shook her head. Previously, she had thought that she would nurture Yi Tianyan for a while, and when he slowly broke through, he would then become the successor. Now it seemed that she was too naive. With Yi Tianyan's strength, let alone being a deputy region lord, he was more than qualified to be a region lord. In other words, he wouldn't even be qualified to be a grade 2 region lord. Because Yi Tianyan's words just now proved his ambition to participate in the Battle of the Divine Realms. They didn't have the guts to participate in the Battle of the Divine Realms, but Yi Tianyan dared to do so, which proved that his strength was definitely not simple. What's wrong? You don't want to fight anymore? Yi Tianyan said indifferently. Or, you can choose to inform them about the situation here. If you want to escape, I don't think they will give you that chance. Yi Tianyan grinned. How could he let go of such a fat sheep? Moreover, it was a hostile force. This hostile force also had something to do with the Death God realm and the Evil Spirit realm. Chapter 1376. Other than hiding, Heavenly Venerable Godkiller had descended to help the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm win the Battle of the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm. The Evil Spirit Sacred Realm was the same. They all had connections with the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm, and many of their powerhouses held important positions in the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm. Therefore, when the Evil Spirit Sacred Realm was destroyed, they went crazy and kept searching for the culprit. At first, they thought it was Heavenly Venerable Godkiller's doing, and even went to the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm to take revenge. Who knew that in the end, the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm would suffer even more? Their wishes were denied and their people died. Therefore, the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm could be so arrogant mainly because they had the support of many sacred realms. Some had chosen to join the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm early on. It could be said that it was a mixed sacred realm with all kinds of forces. This way, when they snatched the token core, they could all go to the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm. Because it was so mixed, the forces there were quite strong. There were probably more than a dozen Heavenly Venerables, definitely ahead of the other sacred realms. Some of them could not participate in the snatching of the token core. Just like Heavenly Venerable Swordsy and the others had said, they could not interfere. If they did, they would lose their qualifications. It was completely different for those who had entered the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm to come down and help. Don't try to challenge the intelligence of the heavens. It would not be wrong. Under such circumstances, the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm still had many Heavenly Venerables. This was the reason for their arrogance. They were not afraid of the myriad Heaven's Sacred Realm, much less the other Sacred Peak Sacred Realm. If they had the ability, come. Correspondingly, if the Heavenly Spring Sacred Realm joined, they would probably not have a chance to enjoy anything. There were so many sacred realms that had helped them, and the benefits would definitely be shared with them. As for the Heavenly Spring Sacred Realm, they probably would not even get a drop of soup. When he heard this news, Tianyan memorized these sacred realms one by one. They would become his opponents in the future, so he had to be vigilant. Now that the Sacred Peak Sacred Realms Heavenly Venerables had arrived, he would kill them in advance. He did not want to let the tiger return to the mountain. You think you can keep me here? Siyuan Heavenly Lord laughed. He thought that Tianyan was too arrogant. Even if they fought just now, he didn't think that Tianyan could beat him. He had absolute confidence in his strength and defense. Even so, he still took out a jade pendant and fiercely crushed it, sending out the information here. He wasn't afraid of being defeated, but he still had to send some information back first, so that they could understand the situation here and discuss countermeasures. At the very least, it was impossible to subdue the Heavenly Spring Divine Realm. He had to use forceful methods. Won't you know once you try? Tianyan grinned, and quickly swung the starry divine spear in his hand. The core power of the 5 elements in his body burst out once again, and the dragon god bloodline was fully unleashed. It was impossible to kill a late-stage lower heavenly venerate powerhouse without expending some effort. Unless his cultivation base was a few levels higher, there were some things that needed to be done. Boom. After erupting, Tianyan's body radiated a powerful aura. Layers of thick scales covered the surface of his body as he charged towards Heavenly Venerate Siyuan. Heavenly Venerate Siyuan's pupils constricted. He hadn't expected Tianyan to be able to erupt with even greater power. All out. Heavenly Venerate Siyuan bellowed. A black shell floated up from his hand. It looked unassuming, but it was actually his exclusive Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure. After the black shell appeared, he immediately put it on his body. Thick armor appeared on his body, and his aura rose by a large margin. This Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure not only increased his defense, but it could also increase his power. In an instant, he really turned into a giant beetle and charged over. Sky-slaying divine art destroy. Tianyan's eyes flashed as he displayed the martial arts he had fused with the fusion system mode. This extracted the best effect and gathered all the advantages into one body. Its power was directly stacked to a heaven-defying level. However, this wasn't the most important thing. His opponent's attribute was the earth attribute, so the core power of the 5 elements in his body immediately surged out to restrain it. In an instant, the suppression of the attributes was stacked once again. The effect was 50 times. How could this be? Heavenly Venerate Siyuan hadn't even clashed with Tianyan's attack when he felt a power that could annihilate him pressing in all directions. The fear of death welled up in his heart. He hadn't even clashed with Luo Yunyang yet, but he already felt like he had to escape. He also felt like he had no way of resisting. This feeling of being unable to resist was only felt when he was facing an existence at the level of his own master. Run! He didn't think any further. Black wings immediately sprouted from his back as he turned around and fled into the void. However, how could he be faster than Tianyan? A mere beetle wants to escape from my hands? The sky was already filled with destructive power. This was the power of the fusion divine art. The destructive power that filled the sky had already enveloped Heavenly Venerate Siyuan. As it enveloped him, the shell on Heavenly Venerate Siyuan's body began to rapidly disintegrate. Such a hard shell was rapidly disintegrating. This kind of power scared Heavenly Venerate Siyuan out of his wits. Boom! Tianyan's spear arrived. It directly pierced through Heavenly Venerate Siyuan's body, and nailed him firmly in the void. Even a Celestial Venerate Numinous treasure could be pierced through. Celestial Venerate Numinous treasures weren't invincible. They could only maximize their power. If one's power far exceeded theirs, they would lose their effect. This shell is quite hard. I almost couldn't pierce through it. Tianyan said calmly. If you kill me, the Sacred Peak Divine Region won't let you off. Heavenly Venerate Siyuan twisted his body, wanting to break free from this attack. However, he realized that he couldn't move. It was no wonder that Celestial Venerate Hong couldn't escape in his previous life. A sealing power had already sealed off all his abilities. How could he escape? This was simply his nemesis. The power of the 5 elements already had an existence that could restrain him. Of course, it was their nemesis. It could be said that apart from the light and dark attributes, he could restrain all other attributes. The 5 elements were just that strong. After absorbing them, he felt that his power had increased tremendously. Crushing a celestial venerate was as easy as drinking water. It wasn't that a celestial venerate was too weak. It was that he had too many trump cards. I think that even if I don't kill you, the sacred peak divine region will find trouble with me. After all, the previous celestial venerate Hung died under my spear. Do you think they will let me off? Etianyan laughed coldly. Moreover, they are competitors in the battle of the divine realms. Will they let me off? Ha ha. With just this bit of ability, you aren't fit to go against the sacred peak divine region. My strength is just one of them. You're dead. Heavenly Venerate Siyuan cursed loudly when he saw that Etianyan wouldn't let him off. Since he was going to die anyway, why not curse to his heart's content? Chapter 1377. Ding. Successfully killed Siyuan Heavenly Venerate. Reward, 110. 000 EXP, 2000 Crazy Point, 2000 SPS. Armored Fiend Bloodline Rare, Sky Fiend Armor, High-Grade Heavenly Dao. Information Record of the River Basin God Realm. You have successfully killed someone of a higher level. You have gained an additional 50,000 compressed experience points. The reward popped up. Overall, it wasn't bad, just that there wasn't an Empyrean Spirit treasure. Of course, even if it dropped, it might not be suitable for him to use. Empyrean Spirit treasures were not like other treasures that required a corresponding ability to be used. Empyrean Spirit treasures could be said to be very valuable, but it could also be said to be very worthless. Every Empyrean would be able to nurture their own treasures. This was similar to his own abilities. When he broke through to the Empyrean level, he would begin to nurture his treasures. As for what kind of Empyrean Spirit treasure was born, not only did it depend on one's own ability, but it also depended on one's own materials. The key point was that there was no need for any refining techniques. All that was needed was to nurture it slowly. This was similar to the core energy within one's body. It needed to be nurtured bit by bit before it could finally form an Empyrean Spirit treasure. Generally speaking, the effect would be the best when used by the user. However, if the attributes were about the same, the effects would still be very powerful. The number of times an Empyrean Spirit treasure could breed was limited. Each level could only nurture one. This meant that the lower, middle, and upper levels could all nurture one. Every level that produced one was equivalent to an Empyrean Spirit treasure of that level. Empyrean Death God didn't have a upper Empyrean Spirit treasure, mainly because it hadn't been born yet. The higher the level of an Empyrean Spirit treasure, the higher the difficulty of nurturing it. To Etianyan, the more the better. It was better than nothing. Then he shifted his gaze to Sir God Elong. This guy had been rather arrogant previously, but he had been dragged over by Etianyan. What do you want to do? Sir God Elong was heavily injured and was firmly restrained by Etianyan. She couldn't move. I don't want to do anything. I just want to ask something. Etianyan didn't waste any words. He grabbed his head and suppressed it with his violent soul force. He immediately began to search his soul. God Lord Elong's eyes turned white as her memories were extracted continuously. After a while, Sir God Elong was thrown to the side. He had become an idiot. Under such a shocking soul search, how could he not become an idiot? So that's how it is. Etianyan wanted to search for the memories of the Divine Emperor Yuqin. From the looks of it, the Divine Emperor Yuqin was indeed still in the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm, and had been working for them. Because of the oath, there was really no way to change it, unless the owner of the oath died. Following that, Etianyan raised his hand and got rid of God Lord Elong. After cleaning them up, he turned his attention back to the traders. I'm done. It's time for those small fries. With a wave of his hand, Etianyan grabbed the traders who had been sent flying. He didn't kill them. Instead, he kicked them one by one to pull aggro. That way, if they were killed, they would gain experience. I'll leave these traitors to you. Tianyun clapped his hands. He was very satisfied with his strength. After absorbing the 5 elemental cores and fusing them with his martial arts, he had improved greatly in all aspects. He hadn't broken through in his cultivation, but the improvement in this aspect was quite shocking. It was even more significant than raising his cultivation by 1 or 2 levels. One's own foundation was often the most important. This situation wasn't surprising. On the other hand, the Glaze Region Master and the others were stunned. They had thought that they would have to fight to the death with Heavenly Venerate Siyuan. Who knew that Tianyun would kill a Heavenly Venerate in just a few moves? If he had killed a Heavenly Venerate before, he would have relied on sneak attacks. Now he had relied on his strength to kill Heavenly Venerate Siyuan. This terrifying power caused them to suck in a breath of cold air. It was simply too terrifying. Before they knew it, Tianyun had already surpassed everyone, including the Glaze Region Master. Elder Go Huang and the others shuddered. They all suspected that Tianyun had deliberately concealed his strength. Had he been hiding his strength ever since he joined the Heavenly Spring Celestial Realm? But that wasn't right. If that was the case, what was his goal? With such powerful strength, he should have joined a Grade 3 Celestial Realm instead of staying in a Grade 2 Celestial Realm. This question was quickly diverted by Tianyun's actions. All of them glared angrily at the traitors. These traitors were all awake and conscious. It was just that they were seriously injured and couldn't move. Seeing that they were walking toward him, his face turned even paler, devoid of blood. At that moment, they realized that their Deputy Region Master was actually so terrifying. You traitors. A bunch of ingrates. I didn't think that you would choose to betray us. Elder Go Huang and the others angrily complained. I am not a traitor. We all want to make our celestial realm more glorious. No, that's right. We didn't do anything wrong. Even if we don't get a reward in the end, at least we can keep our celestial realm after the celestial realm battle. They still didn't give up. They felt that their decision was right and not wrong. Whether it's right or wrong, the punishment for traitors is death. Region Master Glaze's eyes were cold. She waved her hand, and the blue ribbon in her hand swept over, killing the elders one by one. The cleanup task was left to her. As the Region Master here, this situation was largely related to her. Whether it was her fault or not, she was in the wrong. This was called poor management. Now it's time to get rid of the traitors, but we've offended the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm. What should we do? Elder Go Huang and the others were worried. It didn't matter if the traitors were killed. After all, they were their elders. However, 2 heavenly venerables had died here. They couldn't just casually deal with it. They would definitely incur the wrath of the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm. What else can we do? The result is death anyway. Let's fight it out with them. Region Master Glaze wasn't an invincible existence. Some things couldn't be changed. For example, she couldn't change the situation in front of her. If they joined, they would die. If they didn't join, they would also die. They might as well fight it out. Don't be so pessimistic. Choose to join my celestial realm and participate in the battle of the celestial realm. Tianyun said solemnly. Join your celestial realm and participate in the battle of the celestial realm? They looked at each other. They were all shocked by this topic. What was the main reason? What power did they have? What power did they have? They had some Divine Lord level, but they were far inferior to a Grade 3 Celestial Realm. They had 1 Heavenly Venerables, but they were also far inferior to the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm. Why? Region Master Glaze looked at him and asked. You're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.